2, 1.
Hi everybody, Ziv Simon here. I'm the creator of Surgical Master. Welcome to this broadcast from the Surgical Master studio here in Beverly Hills. I'm joined by Dr. Rashad Ryman, my partner, and Dr. Fern White from Melbourne, Australia. We're so excited to have her here in the studio to share some of her principles to success in dentistry, but also in life, and not just success that is a monetary success, but also success in fulfillment and in happiness. And I'm a person that is very curious, always wanting to know what makes a person more successful, what makes a dentist successful versus one that is not successful. What are the main causes for failures and frustrations? Is it knowledge? Is it education? Is it the strategy? Or is it the inner game in knowing how to master and create certain emotions and reactions based on what you're going through? Is it possible to take your practice from where it's at right now and make it more than double it, and make it extremely successful by working less and maybe even enjoying it more? So Dr. Fern White is a dentist from Melbourne, Australia, who's been practicing for close to 20 years. But besides being a successful clinician, she inspires and empowers dentists, mostly female dentists and female physicians from around the world, on the inner game, how to be successful and how to win this game. Fern, how are you? Great to see you.
Great to see you, Ziv. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Rashad, how are you?
Excellent. I'm happy to be here because I share this thirst for figuring out what makes people successful. And it's great. You have a great story, Dr. Fern. You're inspiring and making a difference on a daily basis. So I'm very excited to be here and to listen to what you're going to be sharing with us today.
Thanks.
So welcome to our studio.
Thanks. Nice studio.
So the way it's going to work, we are going to listen to Dr. Fern first and hear some of her background, and we'll interact with her throughout this broadcast and learn from the very important messages and key principles that she's has practically used in her practice to grow from a practice that grosses yearly $900,000, short of $1 million, to almost $2 million, so more than doubling your practice. So let's just start, before we get started with the actual webinar. How does it feel like to more than double your practice? What makes one start from one point and over double it? How does that work?
I think it really starts off with clarity, just actually knowing your goal and knowing where you want to go, and then reaching that and reverse engineering everything to get to that. As long as that's a goal that you really want, then I feel like, yeah, you can bump out anything that's standing in your way to get there. And for me, it wasn't about really doubling or even the income. That was great, but what that brought me was actually freedom. That was really what my goal was.
And how do you know what you really want? I mean, we all always strive to be more successful. Did you have in mind, did you say to yourself, my goal is 2 million? And did you set these goals ahead of time? Or what were you, like how vague or how detailed do you go about this?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, my goal actually wasn't 2 million. It was just something that I hit because my goal was actually freedom. So I didn't actually set a monetary value to what I thought would buy my freedom. It just happened because I implemented a whole bunch of things that we'll talk about today to actually get to that freedom. That was all I wanted. I wanted a great work-life balance. I wanted to also move into something that would help impact more people. They were the things that I was really, really clear about. And everything really happened because of that.
That's awesome.
Beautiful. So from modest beginnings, being an immigrant from Vietnam, to being at the top of a professional dental career, an inspirational speaker, a mentor to thousands of women dentists around the world, and also some men, of course. And we would love to hear your message, and we would love to know the key points to growth where everybody listening to this broadcast can pick 1 or 2 points and actionable teachings that can bring them to a higher level. Is it 2 million? Is it 3? Is it 1? What's important beyond financial success is really the sense of fulfillment in achieving goals that have a deeper meaning than the finances.
Awesome. So,
All right.
whenever you're ready, we're excited to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to this broadcast. And this is going to be roughly around an hour and 15 minutes or so, so we know. So there are a few things that you might want to do if you are listening on. Do you guys want to talk about that? Or
Turn off your cell phones? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're watching this on social media or on YouTube Live or all the other social channels, focus on that. Turn off all the distractions. Grab a pen and paper. This information is gold, literally. This is information that works not just in Australia. It works everywhere. As long as you put your mind and heart and your energy into basically implementing those principles, not just keeping them in theory, pay close attention.
All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay. And yeah, grab yourself, like Ziv said, a journal, a pen, write down as much as you can, because I'll be going through this at lightning speed. There's so much I want to share with you today, and there's only so much time that we have. And seeing that time is one of the things that you won't get back. I want you to make the most out of this session, this class with us, and really, you know, take in the pearls. Don't waste this 1 hour, 1.5 hours that you have. All right, and if you are watching a replay or if you are a part of this, please comment, please share this. If you have any questions, we will get back to you. So get interactive, okay? All right. Also, I get really fired up about this topic. I don't know about any of you guys, but I get fired up about all the stuff that I'm about to talk to you about. So if you have any little ones around, grab your headphones. There's sometimes a little bit of adult language when I get fired up. Okay, so you're watching this right now. Our worlds have collided, and I believe in serendipity. I believe in synchronicity, and I believe that you're here for a reason. And you might be just curious. You might be also struggling. You might be sick of doing the grind. Like perhaps you've got into dentistry thinking, I thought I would be more fulfilled by now. I thought I'd be more successful. And somewhere you might have read something that I've put on or Ziv's put on, you know, an email, a Facebook Live, and you thought, do you know what? It sparked a bit of curiosity in you to want more, to deserve more, to know that you have this life and you want to do everything that you can to make the most of it. So I believe in synchronicity, and I believe that if you pay attention and write down the notes, something, even if you implement one of the pearls that we talk about today, something will change for you, and this could be that deciding moment. So pay attention. So 9 years ago, I found myself on my kitchen floor and I was struggling. I was shaking. It was at the end of a phone call, and on that phone call, there was a male voice, and I didn't know who it was. It was an anonymous voice, and the male voice was saying something like, "You can't get away with this. We know where you live. I'm going to teach you a lesson." And I was by myself at home that day, and I realised it was the husband of the 5th staff member that I had fired. And that was within 6 months of buying my practice, 6 months of buying my practice. And it was all too much. My body started shaking, convulsing. I couldn't breathe, and I literally collapsed on the floor. See, on the outside, as Ziv said, like, I was a migrant. I was a refugee all the way from Vietnam, and I was built to succeed by my migrant parents. Like, they sacrificed everything for me. That was what my father told me every day. And in order to succeed, I needed to be a doctor, dentist, or lawyer, and I had to be the boss. Those were my father's words. And I was an A student. I was a nerd. I went through school. I did everything at everyone's expectations. And I pretty much went through. And by the time I graduated after dental school in 2003, I knew that one day I would be the boss of something. So 5 years later, I bought my first clinic of a 70-year-old retiring dentist. And within 6 months into the practice, I thought, you know what? I can do this. I have no business training, but I'm a pretty good dentist at this stage. How hard can it be to be a boss? And here's the thing, within 6 months of purchasing my practice, this was what my life was like. I was working in my clinic 6 days a week, like just working on patients, trying to pay back this huge loan at 13% interest that I had taken out. And not only that, but I was just trying to work every other day. Like I was working 7 days a week. Sometimes I would feel if there was an 8th day, I'd be doing that too. I was just trying to keep things together. And everything was breaking down, like the compressor, the suction unit, the computers, everything broke down in those 6 months. And I was beside myself. And here I was working like that. So if any of you are watching and see this position as something familiar to you, just know that, you know, this is what we do. We contort our bodies so we can be perfectionists to look after this patient so that they're comfortable, but also to perfect the distal margins of the back teeth. You know, so I was in pain at that stage every single day. I was in so much pain that I was actually having cortisone injections in my right shoulder, and I was having Botox in my face, not for anything aesthetic, but it was actually for pain management. And I was just pumping everything I could into my body just to keep going. And I thought to myself, like Tony Robbins says, success without fulfillment is failure. And I felt that I was failing at this time, you know, because I was living someone else's dream. I was thinking, I've got the practice, I am the boss, but why am I struggling? And I was just thinking there on that kitchen floor, I had to break down. I had to be in my lowest point, sobbing and crying for 2 hours by myself. And I thought to myself, you know what? I kept on asking myself just one question finally. What do I need to do? What do I do now? What do I do now? And then usually when you ask yourself a question, something comes back, whether it was from the universe or from your higher self, wherever it is. But this answer came to me. And this was my answer. If I changed, then my life would change. If I changed, instead of trying to change everyone around me, trying to change all the team members, trying to change my patients, if I could just start to see that, hey, instead of trying to quash the craziness of the world around me, what if I could sit in the quiet of that storm and be okay with that? What if I could have more power? And in that moment, I realized I had a choice. I could either play victim and keep going further down and down and down, or I had a choice that I could lift myself up and I would finally start to invest in myself, rather than just the business, rather than just the clinic, rather than dental courses only. Because I thought at that stage, if I just did more and more dental courses, I'd be a better clinician. But I forgot to invest in the most important tool of all. And that's when I lifted myself up from that place and I changed. And I invested myself. I hired some of the best coaches and mentors all around the world and I followed them. And I invested more in my personal development than I actually did in dentistry, which is saying a lot because I have invested a lot in dentistry. And I changed. I changed my leadership skills. I changed my communication. I developed values. I didn't even have values before then. And see, here's the thing. When you start to change, everything around you starts to change as well. You attract certain people who come into your life, who come into your clinic. Your patients start to change. And it seemed crazy, but when I started to change me, I started to get much more confidence and trust in the way I led. I started to believe that everything that happened was happening for me, not happening to me. And up until then, I was just getting by doing the dentistry that I thought I had to do because I had to know everything. But until I changed my confidence and trust in myself, it was only then I could actually execute the full mouth rehabs, the surgery that I really wanted to do. That was my forte. And then I delegated and I hired more people to do the things that I didn't want to do anymore. And so then, from then, I started reducing my work days from 6 to 5 to 4, and then finally down to 2. And not only that, But organically what happened was then I was able to build through 900,000, from 900,000 a year to 2 million. And that happened organically. But most important for me, it was not about the billings and the money. What that brought me actually was freedom. And it was the freedom to do all the things that I love to do, because I wasn't just a dentist. I wore so many different hats. I didn't want to just to be defined by my dentistry. I loved to sing. I loved doing yoga. I got certified as a yoga teacher. I loved speaking. I loved helping females. I loved coaching. And these were the many hats that I could wear and help impact the world, not just in dentistry. And finally, I was able to have the confidence and the skills to spread the message, to help other women in the profession as well, to help them not struggle so much, to realize that there is just this one life of ours, and you get to choose what you do with this one life. You don't have to be in the grind day to day. You don't have to do what everyone is expecting you to do. You can create your own success according to what you believe and what you want. And there I found freedom, joy and abundance, and that's what I want to talk to you about. And in the rest of this, I want to help you unpack some of the strategies that I used to help me get this freedom, to help me earn more, to help me stress less, and ultimately create my dream life where I get to travel, where I get to mingle with these incredible people that I'm affiliated with, right? These two. So let's unpack this a little bit more. Right? So why does dentistry stress us out so much? Because here's the thing in dentistry, we have around 5 times the suicide rate of our normal white-collar professionals. Why is that so? Why is cardiovascular disease the silent killer, the #1 silent killer of all of us dental professionals? And here's the thing. I believe it is because we are not taught to collaborate. See, we go through dental school and we're competing for marks to get into school. And then at dental school, we compete for marks to graduate. And then we compete for jobs. And then after we compete for jobs, we compete for patients. And there's so much competition and we've forgotten how to collaborate and communicate to each other. And on top of it all, now we're in these stressful environments where patients, they say every second patient might walk in and say, no offense, I hate the dentist. No offense, I hate the dentist, because they're full of fear. And we haven't been trained in our dental schooling to deal with those fears. And then on top of it all, we're working in their airway spaces, in tiny holes, in rooms that are small, a lot of the time without fresh air and windows and sunlight. And then we have staff issues and pressure, and no one teaches us about business. And so it's no wonder that mental illness in our profession actually ranks as top 3. A lot of us are suffering in silence and we're in pain. 90% of dentists are actually in pain when they're practicing. And we just think that that's all there is to life. But our work is stressing us out. And here's the thing about stress. See, stress has been given a bit of a bad rap, but stress is actually really good for us. It helps us survive. It helps us it helps us actually get into momentum and doing things that we need to do. Stress is needed for our survival. So in our hunter-gatherer days, okay, if you were out hunting or gathering berries with your mates and you looked out in the savannah and there was this lurking huge beast out there, you turn around, you're not thinking, your stress reflex kicks in and you either fight, flight or freeze, and hopefully you flight. And you run like a mofo and you find the nearest tree and you climb up it. And if you can burn all of those stress hormones away, what will happen is that you'll live to survive another day and you'll learn from it. Okay, that stress is good for us. But here's the thing, nowadays in our Western world, there is not a lot of things that are actually a danger to our lives. But your body doesn't know the difference between real or perceived threat. So what is happening is that every time you think something stressful, your body reacts as if it was in that exact same stressful event. And so it is secreting the same hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, as if you were in danger. But now a lot of the time we're sedentary. We're sitting, we're in our cars, we're getting stressed in our dental chairs, and the hormones are circulating around. Your body is preparing you for stress, but nothing is being burned. And so that stuff starts to build up and it becomes toxic to our bodies. So I want to introduce you to something that I call the bucket effect. And this is my life's work around how this affects us, and if you can break through this one thing, how it will propel you to create the life that you want. Okay, so I want you to imagine right now that each of us have a bucket. Now, if you can imagine the bucket we are born with, the size of the bucket, the shape of the bucket is usually initially because of our birth lottery. So it depends on, was there trauma during your birth? Were you malnourished? Did you have parents with any issues? Okay, so all of these contribute to the size of your bucket. Now, some people are born with a bucket maybe around, a normal mug size like this. Other people are born with a bigger bucket. Someone like the Dalai Lama has an Olympic-sized swimming pool bucket. So his capacity to hold stress is enormous as he moves through life. So what I want you to do is imagine that you get up in the morning and it's a work day and your phone is behind you and you pick up the phone because you're always asleep with the phone behind you, and you look at it and there's a text message from one of your team members and your team member is not rocking up because she's got gastro, and you start to flick through and you're really feeling like palpitations, and suddenly drip, 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 this stress is dripping into your bucket. And then as you're there, before you know it, you move into your email to see if anyone else has forecasted this, and you're then starting to respond and react to the day. So more drip, 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 drip stress. And now, of course, you don't even realize it, but suddenly you're on social media and you're looking at dental forums and you're comparing yourself to someone else's beautiful outer reel, projection of their best work, and you're feeling super inadequate and you don't even know how you got there, and it's only 6:45 in the morning. Drip, 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 drip. The bucket is starting to fill up. And that's even before you started work. So by the time you get to work, you're already exhibiting signs of stress. Your body is, your vision is tunnel vision, your heart is beating, you're perspiring. Your bucket is half full already, and that's before you even start your day. And it is all thanks to this molecule, this hormone, cortisol. Now, I don't want to demonize cortisol because cortisol is actually one of the most important hormones in the body. Right? But every time you have a stress response, your brain signals to your adrenal glands to release adrenaline and cortisol. And it does that because cortisol is the preferentiated hormone over any other hormone. It is your survival hormone. So what it's in charge of is reducing inflammation, but what cortisol also does is it is in charge of your circadian rhythm. So it gets you up. But anytime you have a big surge of stress or a big worry, you can't sleep properly because that's cortisol getting you up. It doesn't let you sleep. It gets you up because if you don't get up, you could die. But the problem is, over time, if you're constantly demanding your body to release adrenaline and cortisol, that becomes your new homeostasis. And that's what your body knows. And here's the thing. If your body is constantly secreting cortisol, and hear me out here, this looks very complicated, but I know you guys like complicated looking things. Cortisol is here, and what happens is that it is preferentiated. So every time your body thinks it's stress, it stops every other hormone, or it puts on the back burner the other hormone pathways in your body. Things like digestion suffer, immunity suffer, reproduction, circulation. So cortisol then is the preferred hormone because your body, why would it think about digesting, or why would it think about healing itself when it needs to survive? It thinks it's under stress and threat. It thinks it's going to die. And so this is what happens when we're in a stress state. And what happens when you're in a stress state is you can't think properly either. Your IQ can plummet up to 70% when you are stressed. So imagine that for decision making, and especially around surgery. So finally, if you are keeping this up, for men, and particularly women, is that over time what happens is that you move from the alarm resistance phase where you're just reacting to stress, And if you're having stress constantly bombarding yourself, active and passive stress, and we'll go through that in more detail, you finally get into a stage where it's exhaustion and your body breaks down. So your IgA levels plummet, your immune system plummets, digestion goes haywire because your hydrochloric acid is not being produced much anymore. Your pancreatic and bile enzymes don't get produced either. Right. So many things go astray. So literally what stress is doing is it is killing you. If you don't get anything out of today's presentation, stress is killing you. And a life that is full of stress is not a life worth living. Like, we're not put on this planet to stress and work and do the grind at the cost to our bodies, at the cost to actually feeling joy in our day again. And I want to introduce you, this is one of my clients, Megan, but as an example, she was at breakdown. When Megan first came to me, she's the mother of 2 under 3, but her husband wasn't there to support her. She's a dentist, but her husband was fly in, fly out, so she was balancing all of this. And she was at the brink of exhaustion. And what she did was she implemented the 4 strategies I'm going to teach you today. And at the end of it, what she said was, oh my goodness, Fern, I've actually lost 14 kilos after doing your programs. But it was because I was doing things under stress, like stress eating, and I was drinking to cope with my stress. I didn't know that there was another way. And there is another way. So I want to introduce you to my body of work around the bucket. The 4 things that we can do with this bucket of ours that we are given, but we can change it in order to create the life that you want. In order, if you want to reach that 7-figure business, or to reach that freedom or work-life balance that you dream of, or even to have the confidence and trust to execute that surgery that you want to do for so long, okay? All of the successful people who have incredible work-life balance, they are not any smarter than you are. The truth is, they have just learnt, indirectly or directly, to master these 4 concepts. So filter the bucket. When you learn how to put a sieve on your bucket and start to filter all the negativity, the mindset issues, the critical thinking, all of that which is holding you back, all the negative people around you as well, then that will change your bucket. When you learn how to empty your bucket as you're moving through your day and as it gets filled with this sludge of stress, how do you empty it so that it doesn't overflow, so that you don't have that breakdown, so that you don't have disease manifesting in your body? So we're talking about things like, how do we overcome anxiety? How do we overcome shame? And how do we overcome fear of moving forwards? Then we talk about growing our bucket. So how do you get that bucket to the size of the Dalai Lama's bucket? Because unless you're a monk and you move into the caves, right, we need to move through life. And there's going to be some active stress around, but there's also going to be passive stress, radiation, pesticides in our food, so many things that that our body's fighting against. So how do we grow this bucket? How do we treat our body like the temple that it should be, so that it can take us from here into ripe old age? And how do we find pleasure in our life again? That's how do we expand and grow that bucket? And then lastly, when you have filtered, when you have emptied, when you've expanded, how do we choose what to put in our bucket so that life doesn't choose for us? So how do we choose to put more compassion, so much more appreciation and gratitude into our bucket, so that we can master our relationships with our partners, with our patients, and with our team? So how do we become the leader that we want to be, authentic to us? All right. All right, so for the duration of this time, instead of me trying to go deep into all of them, which means that you will probably be bombarded with too much information, I really just want to go dive deep into 2 of the concepts here that I know will serve you. And if you just take away even one bit of one of these concepts, I know that it's going to have a profound change on your life. So let's move into filter. How do we put that sieve over that bucket? Because honestly, out of everything here, filtering is what is holding you back the most from doing anything that you want to do, creating any reality that you want to create. It is that thought that just goes bam, that stops you in your tracks. So when I was 7 years old, we had migrated from Vietnam a few years, and we were living in a little small town of Port Pirie in South Australia, Australia. And we were living next door to my cousin's house. And we were really poor, you know, super, super poor family, migrants. And one day, my cousin, who was a year older than me, she got given a second-hand little bike. And I looked at it, and I was thinking to myself, what is that? And every day after school, my cousin and I would go to the back areas of her house, the back streets, and she would ride her bike, and I'd watch her and I'd be enthralled. I remember looking at her thinking, wow, that looks so amazing, so much freedom and joy in just using that little bike. And all I ever wanted was a bike. And so it was around 2 weeks of me dreaming, watching, going home, watching and visualizing myself pedaling on those pedals. One day my cousin said to me these magical words that I had always wanted to hear, and they were, "Fern, do you want to have a turn?" And I was thinking, that sounds so good. Let's ride on your bike. And she got me up on the bike and she helped me initially. I was a little bit wobbly, but before long, I was doing all right. I was starting to pedal. I'd memorized this, you see. And I was pedaling and everything was great. And she was disappearing in the background. And I was thinking, this is fantastic. And I was feeling free. It was exactly as if I had dreamt it. And all of a sudden, she was a bit far behind and I could hear her saying, "Fern, wait for me." And I was looking down and suddenly I was going faster and faster and faster and I couldn't stop. And she was saying, "Fern, you're going too fast." But I couldn't stop. And I was looking down and I looked at the ground and it was sloping and I was going down a hill. And I didn't realize it at the time. And suddenly I started to panic because what I'd forgotten to learn how to do was brake. I didn't know how to brake. And I remember just being in fright and I was beside myself. I didn't know what to do and I was going faster and faster and faster. I was going down this slope and then I didn't know what to do. So I turned the bike into the bush and I crashed into the bush right at the bottom and that was it. And I remember getting up and I was shocked and I looked at my arms, they were bleeding, her bike was mangled and I couldn't remember the way home. And so my cousin caught up to me and all I remember was opening the door and seeing my parents there. And my dad, he had PTSD. And all I could do was remember him getting really, really angry that I had ruined my cousin's bike. And he started shouting at me. Like he was just going full force. He was saying things like, "How could you embarrass me like this? Don't you know? You shouldn't be riding on bikes. That's dangerous. You should never touch one. You're not good enough. I never want to see you on a bike again. They're dangerous. You're not good enough." And it was at that time I started to believe him. And I shut myself down and I thought, you know what, Fern, you're not good enough. What were you thinking? And his words became my thoughts for the next 15 years. 15 years, I never touched another bike. I was too scared. I wasn't good enough, you know? And I remember that mantra was just ringing true in my mind. Until the day I met my future husband, and he was a mountain bike rider. And I said to him, "I'm not touching any bikes, I'm not good enough." And he said, "Nope, we're gonna get you on a bike." And when I met him, initially, all I wanted was a bike that I could put my feet on. And that was my first small movement, my first small step. And so we got a little foldable bike. It looked a bit ridiculous, but I didn't care, as long as I could put my feet down, right? And with his encouragement and with his cheerleading, eventually I migrated to a mountain bike. And then I loved it so much with the freedom moving through my, you know, feeling the wind through and the air on my hair as I was riding and the freedom. I eventually upgraded to a road bike. And I just loved the speed and the freedom. But here's the thing, I deprived myself for 15 years of this because I didn't think I was good enough. So when we are children, everything is possible. In our reality of the world, everything is possible. And we think big, and we have huge dreams. And we see someone achieving something big, and we believe that we can do it too. Until the day that someone tells you to stay small, or tells you to not be so loud, or not to dream so big because you might fall, because maybe they're looking after you, maybe they're just projecting their own truth onto you. But somehow, somewhere along the track, you start to believe it as well. And those thoughts become your thoughts. So right now, wherever you are, I want you to start to bring up and write it down if you are listening to this, or even better so, comment on the Facebook forum or wherever you are commenting, and be seen in this. Because here's the thing, these thoughts are shame thoughts, and shame needs secrecy to survive. And so when you bring them to light, they cease to have so much power over you. And here's the thing, a lot of the time we are criticizing ourselves so much. We are stopping ourselves from moving forward because we are scared of being seen to be failing, to be imposters, to not be good enough. And if we are all of those things, then maybe we won't be loved or we won't be liked. And that's the worst thing for us human beings, is to be ostracized and not be liked, because we need community. But here's the thing, those very thoughts that are trying to keep you safe are actually holding you back to achieving what you want to achieve. So right now, are those thoughts things like, I'm not good enough? I'll never buy my own clinic. I'll never get my clinic more than 6 figures. I'll never find the right team. What is it right now that you believe are your thoughts? And what would you do if you could just change them? If you could give power, as much power to the negative thoughts that are going on in your head right now, and just change them. You actually have the capability to change your thoughts. This is like an epiphany when I first realized this. I actually have that power to reframe and change my thoughts. And when you start to change your thoughts, you change your stories. And when you change your stories, you get to change your reality. And this is the one thing that is holding all of us back. It's just what we believe, what we think we believe. And it sounds super simple, but sometimes it just is. Just change your belief. All right, so I want to teach something that I use with all of my clients to immediately, and I want you to write this down as well, to immediately quash stress in its path. As soon as you're in any stressful situation, if you feel it coming on, if you feel like that tunnel vision, that hot flush coming over you, you can quash this. Because remember that when you're in a stress state, you can't think properly. Your IQ drops dramatically. You can't figure your way out of things, and you make irrational decisions and you become reactive. Okay? And then usually a lot of the times we regret what we say. So I want to teach you about this one tool that helps all of my clients tremendously, okay? Even if you just do one of the 3 parts, and this is a take on Tony Robbins' state change, but I've added my own little extras on here that I really feel will help. So I want you to imagine right now that you have come back from one of Surgical Master's courses. So Ziv's courses, he's taught you about soft tissues, all right? So how to create the best flap design. And you're in the clinic, and you are feeling pumped because you've come armed from the weekend of all this knowledge, and you've got your first patient in the chair, and you are cutting and everything's going smoothly, And you're thinking that, I am the man or I'm the woman, right? This is great. I'm doing everything Ziv's told me. This is all working out really great. And your nurse at that point just needs to go to the bathroom. You say, that's fine, I'm up to suturing, I'll be cool. And you start suturing. And as you're suturing, suddenly the flap tears. And you're like, what? And you look down and you feel that hot flush coming up over you. And your brain suddenly can't think properly. And there's blood pouring out everywhere. So you're starting to feel contracted. The patient's noticing that something's going on. There's a complication. You can't remember all of the stuff he talked about complications because you're getting really, really stressed and your nurse is not even there. And I want you to stop for a second, okay? Just stop in that instant. The first thing that you want to do is breathe. So breathe, and I know it sounds like so simple because it actually really is. If you catch yourself in that moment, what you're doing or not doing actually is not breathing, or you're breathing really into your chest up the top here. You're doing light breaths. And that's not conducive to you getting into a recovery state. So what we need to do is breathe deep and full. Feel the breath actually move into your stomach, like blow it in, 10 deep breaths. And you can do this with your patient if they're getting stressed as well. What that does is it activates the vagus nerve, which in turn activates the parasympathetic nervous system. And here's the thing, the two cannot coexist at the same time. The parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system cannot coexist at the same time. So breathe deep and full, and that will reset and tell your body that I am not in danger. I can pull back now and I can start to load my prefrontal cortex, which is the logical, rational thinking brain again. All right, so that's step number one. Number two, super, super important, reframing. So reframing. So this is going back to your thought process. What are you telling yourself right now in this instant? Just notice that chatter going off in your head, like that chitter chatter, like, oh, Fern, how could you do this? You're such a numbnut. Who did you think you are? Do you think you're God? Do you think you're Ziv Simon? What are you doing? And there's this constant chatter going off in your head right now, right? That is belittling you, that is criticizing you. I want you to stop. In every single situation, you always have two ways to think about it. You have a really negative, demeaning, criticizing way, or you have a silver lining way, where your higher self stands up. So I want you to just stop for a second and reframe and say, you know what? Start to become your biggest cheerleader. Because if you don't become your biggest cheerleader, who will? So start to go, you know what? You've got this. You've got it. You're going to figure it out. Let's get going. What's my next step? What's my next step? And start to coach yourself through. And then start to add some more gratitude around it. Like, thank God it's this patient and not my next one. Thank God this patient will understand if there's a complication. I can talk my way out of this if I need to, right? Whatever it is, start to reframe and feed your brain all of these more positive thoughts. The more you learn to exercise this, the more it will override your other system of criticizing, okay? Super powerful. You can do it in any situation. And then lastly, move. So of course you're not going to get up and move away from this patient when they're bleeding so much, but what you might want to do is just notice your posture. Like, is it contracted? Are your facial muscles contracted? Are your teeth grinding? These are all the signs to your brain that you are stressed, and it will feed that loop that will secrete more hormones of cortisol and adrenaline over and over and over because it thinks you are in danger and in stress. So what we need to do is just pull back, move into more of an upright posture, move into more of a confidence. Like, what does your body structure look like when it's confident and sitting upright? Right? Everyone's pulled their backs here already, right? Right? As you sit up, then it tells your brain that, hey, I know this posture. I'm relaxed. Relax your jaw. And then if you have time, if you're really stressing out, get someone to cover for you while you excuse yourself and go and shake it out, because you need to shake out that excess adrenaline and cortisol in your body. Otherwise it builds up, right? So literally I go and tell my nurses if they're freaked out doing something, I go and shake it out. Like I literally shake, 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 bounce up and down, just go move, scream into a pillow, whatever you need to do to get that out of your system and then move back, and you'll be instantly surprised at how calm you feel afterwards. So, well, like I said, one of those is super potent. The 3 on there, like 3 together, if you can remember, state switch, breathe, reframe, and move, that will get you out of any situation of stress. Okay, and that could be used also as you're about to step into an argument with someone or your spouse, or you're about to offload something, like any situation, right? It will help you in life, not just in dentistry. Okay, so the concept that I want to teach you and go more deep into is filling. So filling your bucket. So once again, when you have learnt how to filter, when you have learnt how to empty your bucket, when you have learnt how to expand and grow it and treat your body like a temple, then filling it is easy, because now you get to choose what you put into your bucket so that stress doesn't come in all the time. Now we get to choose to fill it with things like compassion, like gratitude and appreciation for what we have every day. So here's the thing, when you start doing gratitude practices and feeling appreciative for what you have in your day, then what it does is actually releases a chemical, a molecule in your body called DHEA, which is in direct competition to cortisol. So in fact, gratitude is the antidote to stress, right? You can't be grateful and stressed at the same time. So fill yourself with gratitude. And from here, then you can start to, not let life fill the bucket for you with Netflix or Facebook or bad news. You can choose what you surround yourself with. And then when you have filled your bucket, then you start to master your relationships and become the leader that you want to be, the authentic leader who leads from the heart as well as the head.
One second.
So when I first bought my practice, I just didn't know how to lead. I just wanted staff to like me. I wanted my team to like me. And I thought, if I say yes to them all the time, then they'll do the right thing by me. And they didn't. My team started dropping off. People were just doing what they wanted to do. And I would feel so betrayed. And I would oscillate between being the yes woman and then being the resentful boss lady who was just like, you know, do what I say or else. And I just didn't know what to do. And then I started to realize after losing like 10 staff members, is that, hang on a second, who's the common denominator between all of this? And I realized it was actually me. And I learnt to use a communication technique that really helped me get really clear with my team members, because I realized that, hey, it was me all along. I didn't set boundaries. I wasn't clear about what I wanted them to do. I wasn't clear about their job descriptions. How could they take leadership from someone who was unclear? So here's the thing. These two types of communication techniques that I usually roll into one made all the difference for me. And that first one is active listening. So active listening is all about, and this is amazing and imperative for you to have with your patients as well. Okay, so active listening is actually sitting back and listening and seeking first to understand what is going on in that person's mind, right? Having empathy, like asking them to open up and actually connecting with some empathy there as well. So you actually don't assume bad intent, assume good intent. Right? So for me, it's like, okay, how do I assume good intent before proven guilty? And so I'm not moving around thinking that, okay, that team member's doing the dirty behind me, right? So I sit down and actually actively listen. So it starts off with things like, oh, tell me more about this, okay? All right, and actually listening to what they have to say rather than just using those silent gaps to come back with a rebuttal. So that's active listening, sitting down and connecting and getting some empathy to actually seek first to understand. And then I combine it with direct communication. So after that, getting really clear about what I want, what the outcome is, and using directives like I want, I need, and timelines, and getting really clear around job descriptions, okay? Because one of the things that will get you to fall off track is not having clarity. And your team members will fall off track if they don't know where they're going either. So let's look at a situation with underperformers and where we can utilize this type of communication. So let's say, for instance, one of your team members who you've hired was really good for the first 2 months, and then they started to come in late every day. And you don't know what to do, and all the team are starting to go, hang on a second, this is not cool. So first of all, everything that you ignore, you condone. So it is up to you as a leader to actually have to communicate this with this team member. And really, the scene is set right from the start when you hire this team member to align with the values that you have of the practice. So even before they're starting to underperform, when you hire, it's so important as a leader to make sure that you align the team with the values of the practice, with the values of your clinic or of yourself. So for instance, my values are things like health, integrity, growth, connection and love. Okay, so they're the things that I hold really true and I live by them in my life. And they're the values of my clinic. So that when we hire anyone who comes in, we tell them, we ask them, what are your values? And we see if they align to these values. And these team members can have different attributes and different skill sets. That's great, that's what you want. But the values have to be in line. So that when someone is underperforming, then what I could do is then I can say, okay, hey Julia, what I would always do is never ever shame them in front of other team members or other patients, ever. So I'd always ask for a meeting at the end of the day. And I would say to Julia, I say, hey Julia, this is the active listening part. Julia, what's going on? I have just noticed that you're not as engaged as you used to be, and I feel that you're not performing at the level that I know you can perform at right now. So what's going on? Do you want to tell me what's going on? And give Julia a chance to actually tell you what's going on with her life. You know, there might be a reason why things are dropping, why maybe she's calling in sick all the time, or why she's late all the time. Whatever it is that is irking you at that moment. Okay, so don't make any big assumptions. Let Julia tell you what's going on in her world. And then when Julia has told you, and there could be a few things, I mean, if someone's died, I mean, that's obviously a drastic thing that you need to hold more space for. But what I would do is then I would use direct communication, so get really clear about my outcome for Julia. And I would say to Julia, Julia, listen, okay, I want you to be really engaged. I want you to be happy here. I want to help you, to set you up to succeed. What do you think we could do to help you? And get Julia to come up with some of the answers for herself so that she learns to, well, here's the thing. Your team will support what they come up with, what they create, okay? So that's number one. So coach her on coming up with her answers. And then put on a timeline and say, Julia, here's the thing. Okay, what we're going to do is I want you to concentrate on coming in early for the next week. Don't make it the whole month or the year, something unattainable that they'll fail at. You know, give them something. Like, I want you to this week, do whatever you can to come in early, to be on time, okay, at this point. Or if they're getting sick all the time, which is a huge thing, right? Let's line it with health. Hey, Julia, you know, our value is health. One of our key values is health. And we want everyone to be really healthy here. Now, it seems that you're getting sick because that's not happening for you right now. What are 3 things you could do to help you with health? And so get Julia to come up that and realign her with the values. Now, then set your timelines and say, Julia, listen, I want you in the next week to not be sick one day or to come in on time every single day. Can you do that? And let Julia say if she can do that or not, right? But what you want to do is also help her, support her, touch in with her after a week and see how it went. But don't be afraid to say to Julia, Julia, here's the thing. If you can't do this, because this is what we really need for whatever reason, and we're really trying to support you here, this may not be the right fit for you. We want you to be happy. We want you to be engaged. And just set those expectations. Don't be afraid of saying that, because a lot of the time we hold on to things too tightly because we're scared that we won't find a better Julia, or like we have to retrain someone again. But if you hold on to a lagging team member who doesn't want to change, then you're actually pulling the rest of the culture down. Okay, so we have to get really clear about that. And as leaders, sometimes we have to, it's more important sometimes to do what's right for the business. Okay, with heart, of course, but make sure the decision is always like, what is right for your business? So that's one big thing that I use active communication, active listening and direct communication for with team members. Now, what I do with patients, and this is one of the key things, how I accelerated my treatment plan acceptance. I actually ended up earning more because I actually connected more and spoke from the heart. So there were days in the past when I used to see like 20 patients a day and I couldn't remember any of the patient's name, you know, and I'd be looking at the wall seeing who I was seeing next, right? And I was seeing a lot of quantity but not quality. And so these days when I practice, every new patient who comes through the practice gets 75 minutes with me as a new patient experience. And that's just to do an exam, right? But it's not really, because the time that you spend with a patient is exponential to the treatment plan acceptance. If you establish enough trust and rapport with that patient. So I really feel that the reason why patients are not accepting your treatment plan or my treatment plan in the past was not because of costs or not because of time or whatever, you know, objections they had. It's actually because they didn't trust you enough. They didn't value what you had to offer enough. Okay. And so with that being said, when a patient comes in, I spend about 15 or 20 minutes of that initial first part of the appointment just sitting down and connecting with Mrs. Jones and seeing her eye to eye. Like, I'm so present with her that I actually see the colour of her eyes. And I'm connecting with her, and I want to know what lights up Mrs. Jones. I want to know about her family. I want to know all about her, right? And I say to Mrs. Jones, I'm here as your educator. I'm going to teach you about your teeth as if I had your mouth. I'm going to give you all of the information as if I had your mouth. And at the end of the day, you pick and choose what you're comfortable with, okay? But I'm going to help you give weighted opinions and consequences as well. But that's my job here as your educator. but I want to know about you because we're going to get pretty intimate here. So let's just connect as human beings. And I really feel that if we connect and take the time to do what our humankind and our human species are primed to do, which is connect with each other, then that builds trust and that builds rapport. And then so when you are then offering your treatment plan to the patient, and I use the word sell because really I believe that selling has had a big bad name put on it by used car salesmen, and we think that, oh, we're dentists, we don't sell, you know, we're just offering treatment plans. But the truth is we are actually selling, and when we come to terms with the word selling, and it could be from heart, it's a different selling. But any transaction between, you know, if we're exchanging a product or a service for money, that is selling, right? Then I'm going to step into the treatment plan with Mrs. Jones, and I'm going to come in with this confidence and trust in my own abilities that I'm not going to pull back and hope that, you know, she takes whatever I'm going to say. I need to step forwards and help Mrs. Jones because I can forecast and know what will happen in the future to her if she doesn't do my treatment plan. And I've got to come in with so much trust and confidence in myself that I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to screw Mrs. Jones over if I don't pitch hard enough to sell her my treatment plan because I believe that I'm going to look after her. I'm the best for her at this stage. You know, and it's a big call. But when I started to change my mindset and have that much confidence to come in with that notion, because, and if you don't, then go and do the courses to help you, you know, get better at it, right? But the truth is, if you come in with that much confidence, if you sit and establish that much trust and rapport and care and just see Mrs. Jones as if she was your friend or family member, then that's how my patients felt me, and they actually started accepting more of my plans. And that's it. You know, there's no magic, there's no sales script, even though sometimes I have crafted out some to help people, but that's it. It just goes back to trust and rapport. Okay, so I really want to highlight that when you change, everything changes around you. You are responsible for your world. You are the creator of it. Don't be the victim and give that power over to anyone else. Don't start blaming everyone else, and just know that if a team member needs to go, they need to go. Someone else will come in their path, right? Someone else will come and bring the energy that you need in your team. There is one person waiting out there right now for you, okay? But you have to change your mindset. You need to know how to filter, empty, expand, and fill. Right. So I just want to summarize what we've talked about so everyone can be clear, because I know I went through a lot of information, but I want you to remember that you have a bucket. Everyone has a bucket. That bucket is our capacity to hold stress, okay? And we are given different buckets, but we can change them. We have that power to change them, right? So we can filter the bucket. We can filter our mindset. We can change the way we think and believe and the confidence in ourselves to execute. We can filter who we are around. Are the people empowering us, or are they pulling us down? How do we empty our bucket? How do we empty the fear, the anxiety? How do we empty the shame that pulls us down? How do we learn boundaries and say no so that we can say yeses to the things that light us up? How do we expand or grow our bucket so that no matter if we are moving through life with stress, we have so much capacity that we don't feel it so much? And finally, how do we fill our bucket so that we become the leader that we need to be, right? To find the freedom, to find the joy in our life again. So heal your bucket, do all of these things with your bucket, change your world by changing yourself.
That was...
Thanks. It's recording. He wants to do the pitch.
So,
That was great.
So, Dr. Fern, this is super valuable. And while all the courses in the industry are, you know, how to do technical things, the biggest block to us succeeding is our mental, our psyche, and it seems that you've mastered that. You've invested in yourself to reach this level, and what you're sharing is so valuable and so needed. And I'd love to be mentored by someone like you. And if there's anyone out there watching right now who hear you, who resonate with what you're saying, what do you have available to actually help dentists out there who understand where you're coming from and might be feeling the same struggles that you felt and you've actually overcame?
Good question. It's coming up. Shall we have a look what we've prepared?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right. So, look, I want to first of all showcase to you one of my clients, Dr. Padma. Now, she's Australian, but she's from India. And this is not a before and after shot of when Padma met me, and then this is actually all of it after Padma finished my course. And I want to show that Padma is amazing. She is an entrepreneur. She's a mother of 2. She's also owns her own dental clinic. She also manages her physician husband's clinic as well. And she came to me and she was struggling. And what she did was she moved through the course, which I'll introduce to you in a second, that allowed her to master these 4 concepts. And Padma called me literally a week after she finished the course, and she said, "Fern, you'll never guess what happened to me." And I said, "What happened, Padma?" And she said, "Fern, after I finished your course, I actually found myself in the hospital. And it was pretty severe. I didn't know what happened. I collapsed. And luckily, I came out of it. And the doctors were over my bed, and they were telling me, you could have died. You could have done this. Do you know what happened? Da, da, da." And I was just there, and I was absolutely calm. And the doctors kept saying, "But you could have died. Why are you not more distraught about this?" And Padma just said, "You know what?" And she was so calm. I was so calm. And she was in hospital, and she looked at the doctors, and she said, "You know what? I choose if I die. Because here's the thing." Padma said to me, "I have so much to live for now." And I realized that after going. It didn't matter that I was so successful before, because I had no joy in that. So this is actually a before and after of Padma, a week after finishing the course. And that was her response. And she said, "Normally, Fern, I would have freaked out. I would have freaked out." And so she gave herself power again. Now, I want to introduce you to my Practice Your Passion course, Rashad.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's only for females at this stage.
Would love to hear about it, although the concepts that you shared with us in this what seemed very brief, is applicable to any human being, regardless of your profession, whether you're a dentist, physician, engineer, or serving hamburgers at McDonald's. It's extremely important to understand the inner game and being able to recognize those patterns that you so well mastered. So I'm excited to learn about Practice Your Passion.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Practice Your Passion. So Practice Your Passion, I am super, super excited. We have just launched the 2nd version of it after 18 months. It is the new and improved upgraded version. We've literally had 270 women worldwide go through our course after 18 months of launching. And let me introduce you to this course, because it is the roadmap of what I've showed you briefly in today's session. And it literally shows you all the concepts and the teachings and the coaching on how to do those 4 concepts. So the filtering your bucket, the emptying, the expanding, and also finally being the leader, okay? And there is a little bit of an alert here. I'm just going to say that I am about to sell you something, because for me personally, I've seen the hundreds of women's lives which have changed, that have brought tears to my eyes. And I feel like if I don't pitch hard enough to sell you this, then I might actually screw you over, because if you're watching up to this point right now, maybe something in you needs to change right now, yeah, to move the trajectory of your life forwards. So first of all, I want you to imagine, the late Wayne Dyer said, you are the 5 of who you surround yourself with. And so I want you to imagine having a new peer group where dentistry is not lonely anymore, that you can collaborate, that you can connect with other fellow human beings who get you, that you don't need to put your best work up there, that you can be vulnerable and say things and everyone lifts each other up. You know, that is immeasurable and invaluable. So that is the group, this is the tribe that you get to come into with this new training. And someone like Rachel, Dr. Rachel McDonald, right? She came on, she had 3 little kids under 3, and when I first met her before she went through the course, she was suffering from depression and anxiety, and Dr. Rachel, actually after she finished the course, she said to me, because her father had passed away recently, and she said, within the first week, she said, "You've saved my marriage." And I said to Rachel, we haven't even done that last module yet, but it was because she changed. So here's the thing, in this training, what we give you is, well, here's the thing, I mean, I don't take one-on-one clients anymore unless you are in my 5-figure mastermind group, okay? But the training that you get in here is similar to that. It is the roadmap to that. And you also get my 10 years of everything that I know, all the personal development, all the coaching, all the certifications. It's all amalgamated into this roadmap. So you are paying for not making the same mistakes that I made, but also getting it in a much shorter time. So involved in the program, you get the 2.0 program, the new and improved, including 30 plus videos, and that value is almost $2,000. You also get that mindset transformation module and movement course to help the mind, but also the body unlock, and that's worth $1,000. You get ongoing weekly group coaching with my team, which is valued at $2,000. And you get lifetime membership to the PYP community, so our community forever, which is valued at $1,000. Also, for the first time ever, there's unlimited access, which is $1,000. And if you're an Australian or New Zealand resident, you also get 12 CPD points as well. On top of it all the business systems that took me from 6 days down to 2, I have it all in the course for you in Module 4. So that in itself is worth $3,000. And also that new patient process that I talked to Mrs. Jones about, that doubled my income and my treatment plan acceptance, worth $3,000. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that you get there that you can probably read through. And it's worth more than $13,000 of value in this program. But best of all, for me, it's 100% guaranteed. So if you go through the program, if you do 80% of the work, okay, there's a little bit of homework for you to do, and you go through the whole program and you find that, hey, nothing changed for me, ask us for a full refund, because I believe in this program so much that, you know what, I would happily give it to you if it didn't work for you, okay? So it's 100% guaranteed. And that's the investment for you today. So $1,997 USD. So you can type down www.drfern.com.au/PYP, and that's the program name, Practice Your Passion. All right. Oh, and also, let's have a look. The bonus for all of you today, being on live with us, okay? If you're getting in and you're getting that program, you also get a 30-minute transformative coaching call for clarity. That's with one of our high-performance coaches to set you up, because I know a lot of the time we are sitting there and going, okay, where do I start? I don't know where to start. So this coaching call is amazing. It's a power call with one of our high-performance coaches, and it sets you up straight away so you can start mapping out the life that you want. You also get one free pass to our PYP annual live workshop, and that's valued at $790. And also the third bonus, if you are sitting there thinking, okay, this lady's got a little bit of energy, it is because of Dr. Natasha Fox. She's responsible for my energy, and she has created a bonus course on energy acceleration, so how to get back energy. And that is valued at $1,000, but that's the extra bonus that we are giving to you today. So the total value is over $15,000. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Marie Sullivan. Dr. Marie Sullivan is from the USA, and this is what she has to say. This is one of the most valuable CE that you'll ever do. Like, that's from her heart. Okay, so what to do now? So if you want to join in, jump on www.drfern.com.au/PYP, and signing up, you basically, on the next page, you'll see that there are 2 options, worldwide or Australia. Choose your option. Australia gets charged GST on top, which is refundable. And then you're in straight away, forever. You have access to this program forever. And then you can get started pretty much on your own and come into our tribe and get inducted into our tribe. So just going through everything again, you get your Practice Your Passion 8-week flagship program valued at $2,000, the added bonus meditation and movement course valued at $1,000, lifetime membership to our PYP community valued at almost $1,000, unlimited repeat of the course and unlimited access valued at almost $1,000. You get ongoing weekly group coaching valued at $2,000, 12 CPD points if you're Australian or New Zealand, and the business system course valued at almost $3,000, as well as the step-by-step new patient process valued at $3,000. So that's more than $15,000 worth of value, and that is your investment for today. So you can jump on and have a look. And so I want you to meet Dr. Sarita Atreya. Now, Sarita had reservations. She was watching a masterclass as well. She had reservations about all of this. She thought, okay, I don't know if I can afford this. And she was back and fro for a while. But when she jumped on, Sarita is a mother to 2 teenagers, and she was helping her physician's husband as well with his practice. So she left her dreams of buying her own practice on the back burner. And as soon as she went through the course, she was an amazing student. She went through it in one hit. And after that, she was so pumped and ready. She said, this is like 10 times the value. I'm able to collect what I need to buy my own practice right now. So she's, yeah, an amazing student. And I want to ask you really, what is it going to cost you if you don't change right now? So whether you buy the program or you don't, whatever you do, please just take something from what you've learnt today, right? But if you're struggling right now, I want you to forecast in a year's time. If you are here right now and nothing changes, imagine a year's time, and that's compounded. So I wonder what that's going to do to your self-esteem, your work opportunities, your body, maybe the relationships that you have. I really want you to start to feel that. Okay, if you don't do anything with the time that you're given, and then further compound it to 5 years' time if you don't change. Okay.
It's awesome. And if someone says they can't afford
you can't afford not to join.
These guys are,
I'm in awe. So if you are a male watching this, a male dentist, why does a training for female physicians or dentists, why does it differ from male training? What are the specific challenges that female dentists or physicians are facing in your experience?
Yeah, I mean, look, the course particularly is designed for females. I would have loved to make a male one, and maybe I will in the future. But I move into the feminine a lot because there are a lot of issues around the body that we talk about, right? But especially for us females these days, we have more freedom than ever as females, but yet we are so much more stressed than ever. And now we've got all the hats. We can be the breadwinner, the alpha woman, but we still have to have the children, and our bodies suffer from I guess I dive deep into what the female body does, and a lot of the time the energy is tied up.
So just to correct an impression that some people watching this broadcast, the training specifically for women is not a type of corrective discrimination. Female, as we all know, are different than male and come with a whole different set of mindsets and perhaps challenges. We don't say that women can do less or more than men, purely equal. But being a female coach, I think we can all, on both ends of gender, we can all learn from that. So that was fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing these concepts. If we want to join right now, we have the link at the bottom of this video. Feel free to leave comments, questions for us and for Dr. Fern. Right on this page. Is there any other questions, Rashad?
No, I think you had that slide on that if you can't afford it. For $2,000, you really can't afford not to do this if you have any of the issues that you've touched upon. This is so valuable. This is not stuff we learn at school. This is not stuff that people openly talk about. The vulnerability with which you talk about things is refreshing. There is no mask with you. You're actually sharing what it's like to be a human, what it's like to be a human doing dentistry in this day and age. And I'm happy to know you, and I'm super excited to actually go through this program myself. Yes, I'm not a female, but I think 95% of what's in there will be very beneficial for someone like me. I mean, just the business processes that you have set in place to take your practice so that it's operating on its own is it's priceless.
Thanks.
When it comes to overwhelm, a lot of us are overwhelmed on a daily basis, and no matter at which stage we are in our lives, we all experience stress, anxiety, and fear. So looking at this program and all that it has to offer, one may say, you know what, I'm just starting out. I just graduated dental school, I just finished my residency, I have all these big loans, I'm just at the beginning of the beginning. What would you tell a dentist that is considering joining your program at this early stage?
Yeah, I wish there was a program like this when I graduated, is all I can say. There was nothing like this, and there's actually still nothing like this out in the world for dentists, for female dentists, with all the concepts that we teach about. So I feel like this is your best investment. Like, you've invested in your dentistry, you've invested in your education, but the truth is, if you don't invest in yourself, it's just going to cause you so much more pain and issues along the way. You know, all of the mistakes, and you also have a massive tribe to help support you along the way, and that to me is invaluable as well when you start your career. So yeah, I would really think about that.
And you being the culmination of the 5 people you hang out with mostly, when I first graduated, I got jobs in corporate dentistry. They care for production. They don't really care for you being a great dentist. So these people that you're surrounding yourself with are going to be key to your evolution as a dentist. If you're surrounded by people with not much soul, they don't do dentistry with a humanistic nature, that's going to have a trickle effect on you down the road. However, if you right off the bat when you graduate, and it took me some time to find Dr. Zeev Simon and people like you, Dr. Fern, and yourself, to actually build a group of loving people who genuinely want to see you succeed, because most people in life don't care to see you succeed. They don't want to see you succeed. It's that tribal, that acting out of fear, out of lack, and a lot of times it's passive aggressive. But for people like you, Dr. Fern, and you, Dr. Simon, in the field of surgery and implants, and you in the field of the psyche of the dentistry, this is huge. And if you're a young dentist out there, this is a must. And I'm super excited. I'm happy to be living in this day and age where gurus like you guys who've been through it, done it, are passing that knowledge on and not hoarding it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you again for joining us in this broadcast. It's not the level of your education, your intelligence, your background, your financial abilities. It's really about the inner game, the inner strength, and the grit, and the energy that you have to overcome these challenges. If you want things to change, you must change. If you want things to change, you must change. And one of the ways to change is to join the Practice Your Passion program with Dr. Fern White. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks.
It was great, Dr. Rashad.
Likewise.
It was great having you. And to join this program, look at this page, and we'll see you inside Practice Your Passion with Dr. Fern White. Thank you.
Awesome. What did we just do? And the
Audio's back.
Okay.
So what did we just do right now? You shared something powerful with us, and you actually implement that in your own practice. And can you just share with the world what that is and the mechanisms of it, and how it's how you've seen the results in your practice, and how you actually implement it and make it stick?
So everything that I implement in my practice, I'm the guinea pig for first. So I actually do it myself first, see how hard it takes for me to do it, and then try and make it easiest for my team to create a habit so it sticks. So what we do is, energy is a big issue amongst the team, amongst myself, like maintaining our energy throughout the day. And it's not uncommon that we have this slump around after lunch and another slump around maybe 3 or 4. The problem is when we have those slumps, like our focus, our ability to be productive and to think clearly, it just goes down dramatically. And if we have that with our team members, you can see the productivity and the focus of your team members going down as well. So what I've started to implement with myself and my teams is every hour, the gold star is every hour, but when you first start implementing, even 1 or 2 a day is good. And what we do is we actually just do a bit of an energy booster. So it's literally about 3 minutes. And what I got you guys to do today was just to stand up, to literally do big arm circles.
So that was the first exercise, arm circle.
Big arm circles, okay, back and forth, right? And then doing it the other way, like that. Can't really stretch with my blazer here, but anyway, big arm circles.
We'll have some B-roll placed in this,
Big arm circles, just to balance the left and right brain as well, okay, but also loosen up the shoulders and neck and tightness around there, because that's a big issue in dentistry particularly. And then we move into padding our lower backs. So it's a qigong method where we're actually activating the adrenal glands to secrete adrenaline for us to get back some hit of energy. So it's as good as coffee. So we just tap, 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 tap our lower backs.
For how long do we tap?
Oh, look, I would say about 20 seconds.
20 seconds on your kidneys.
On your kidneys, which are located, power-packed, just at your lower back area, okay? And we do this together as a team, it's fun.
How much of that is physical and how much of that is mental? Meaning activating the kidneys and moving and stretching and increasing our heart rate obviously gives energy, but how much of that is the mind? Yeah,
well, it's also a pattern interrupt. It breaks you out of what you were doing. And just to finish off the other things that we do, there's the kidney tap, and then there's also like marching. So just removing the hips, putting the knees right up, marching from side to side. And then we do, I do big like skips with deep breaths in and out. So that's just oxygenating your blood and getting energy back. So it's a pattern interrupt, it gets you out. So anytime where you are fixated on the computer, for instance, continuously, if you give your eyes a break, if you give your brain a little bit of a break, when you come back, usually you're a bit more refreshed when you do that too. And on top of it all, at the end, I always have a glass of water and I do some type of small meditation, and that's the mind reset. And it could just be sitting there, closing my eyes and just visualizing what's my next step. What do I need to do first? How do I bring the best self of me forwards? And getting intentional about that. So that's what I do to reset, and I do that with myself on the hour. With my team, it's much harder, so I made it into a competition, and I say, look, let's aim for 2. Whoever does 2, write out the board. Let's compete. You know, and the truth is, you're paying your team members to do this. You know, so just remember to get that clear with them. You're paying them because you care about them and their energy levels.
They don't clock out. They don't
clock out in my practice.
Excellent.
You're paying them, but that investment will have huge rewards for your team, because they'll just be so much more energized and productive, and they'll actually feel more alive than rather have that slump. So it's an amazing investment. So I make it like a little bit of competition. We have a bit of fun with it. And with a habit, what you want to do is not tell them every hour, every day. Initially, that's going to be too much and they'll fall off the bandwagon. So what I do is install the Kaizen method, which is essentially the way of building habits and making them stick. is to actually implement one small tiny thing at a time and make that so hard to almost not do that they do it, right? So the first day could just be once and everyone just ticks off once, and then you could do once for like the whole week just to implement that one thing, and then the next week could be two, you know, rather than try and do one every hour, go for the first day. And that's how you create a habit that sticks.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
So we'll get started.
So it's mental or actual physical?
Both.
Both.
The
And
human and the mind are connected.
Yeah, and
They're
energy.
one.
Energy is actually always, for me, mental, emotional, and physical energy. That's it. That's where your energy comes from. And the brain sucks the most energy out of all the organs.
Well, thanks for sharing that. It's we don't learn that in dental school. It is a new age, a new era, however, and with the spread of the internet, there's a lot more sharing going on. Historically, this hasn't been possible. And welcome to Los Angeles and Beverly Hills, and you know, it's a good opportunity to take and, you know, learn a little bit more about the roadmap to happiness in dentistry and healthcare. And only someone who's been on both ends of the spectrum, you know, been unhappy and then found that happiness, can, and you've had your an experience with that. As far as, you know, starting out in dentistry and finding a struggle and then overcoming that struggle. So
Yeah.
it would be great if, you know, we talk a little bit about your story.
Yeah, my story is actually the reason why I have become who I am today. And it was because of it's because of my breakdown that actually led to my breakthrough. So I was born in Vietnam in a time that was war-torn and war-stricken, and we were boat people. And so I was raised by migrant parents who instilled in us that success meant being a doctor, dentist, or lawyer. And Dad always said, you have to be the boss. That's how you're going to be successful. So when I went to dental school, I studied hard. I knew that when I graduated, I would become a boss one day. And 5 years after graduating, I bought my own clinic, and I thought, okay, I'm great. I'm a great dentist. How hard can it be to be a boss? But here's the thing, within 6 months of purchasing my practice, taking out a massive loan at 13% interest rate back then, this was almost 10 years ago, everything was breaking down. Like literally, it was almost in that 6 months, I was working in my clinic 6 days a week. I was working, trying to get my patients through, worrying about money because I had to repay back this loan. And then every other day working on the business. And so I was so stressed, I didn't know how to lead staff. Staff were coming, my team were coming in and out whenever they wanted. And big things like the compressor, the suction unit, the dental chair, and the computer system all broke down, I kid you not, in 6 months. And I was just having, every time I thought I was like getting by, something huge would hit me down. And somewhere along the track, I came home one day and literally I had another team member leave, and I had this phone call, anonymous phone call by a male caller. And I remember that day because I was by myself, and literally he was starting to abuse me on the phone. He was just saying things like, I know where you live, we're going to come and teach you a lesson, how can you do this? And I was thinking, whoa. I hung up the phone and my body broke down. Like I collapsed. And I didn't realize it then, but I was having my panic attack, my first one. And it was on that floor for 2 hours, crying, sobbing by myself. I realized that I actually had to do something differently. And I changed. And I said, look, I'm going to change. I realized that I needed to change. I couldn't stop being a victim to all the stuff that was happening to me. I had to realize that it was actually happening for me. So
how did that happen though? Because usually if someone is in that state where they've been just attacked by someone, they be like, you know, it's their fault, I'm a victim. What went on in your head to actually not have a victim mentality, and rather than and take responsibility and decide to change rather than to blame?
Yeah. It was almost as if my body needed to empty out all of the crazy thoughts, all of the emotions, and that was what the panic attack was doing. That by the end of the 2 hours of convulsing on the floor and having that attack, everything, there was just this calm. There was nothing left. And in that calmness, in that space where I was just lying there, it was just, I kept on asking myself a question, and it was almost like an inner voice or a guidance, you can call it God or the universe, whatever it is. In that calm, it was just the clarity that I needed to change. I needed to somehow empower myself so I could deal with everything that was happening in my life, because I could see the patterns so clearly.
So not everybody needs to go into a panic attack.
No.
And we don't have to wait until we collapse, and we don't have to wait until it's the end of it all. There are some preventative measures and better way to do things.
Absolutely.
So from being on the floor to getting up and getting to where you're at, what were the next steps?
For me, it was getting up and realizing I realized that I needed help. I couldn't do this on my own. And that's where I started to look for help. And when you start to get clear about something, suddenly it's almost as if the universe brings it your way. So I was suddenly hearing about Tony Robbins, I was hearing about all these gurus, and I'm thinking, okay, I need to do something different than what I've done, because if I keep doing the same thing over and over again, that's insanity, you know?
Sure.
And I feel like the universe hits you over the head a few times, giving you a sign or two, but then finally the big whack comes, you know, if you don't listen hard enough. So I sought help, and I asked for help from different gurus, and I invested. I paid money to travel and be coached and, yeah, immerse myself, to help myself.
That path, the fact that I still find it very admirable that you did not point and you did not blame. Were you starting to do any type of self-help meditation at that time, or you were all consumed by the robotic existence of survival, being in survival mode and that grind?
Yeah, I didn't realize that at the time, because when you were on that treadmill, a lot of the time you're just trying to survive and you don't even realize. In retrospect, it's so easy for me to say, hey, I was just, you know, I was in the grind, but it wasn't a choosing. It was something that it was just like a survival mode. And when you go into survival, you can't think properly, right? You don't realize, all you're doing is just trying to get through every single day. And that's what was happening. And it wasn't that I didn't point or blame. I'd done so much of that I was almost sick of it. You know, and I realized that, hey, this is what I've been doing. I've been playing victim this whole time. Something's got to change.
The sad thing that I've seen, you know, is I've seen people grow old and pass on from this life and still not realize that victim is not the way to win.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a great thing you realize that.
Yeah.
So we got one of your students, one of the doctors that you mentored, and this is what she's saying. I've been practicing for 6 years and own my own practice. PYP stands for Practice Your Passion, which is one of your training program. What did you do to this doctor, or what did you teach this doctor from Montana, United States, to help her to get where she's at? What was her main challenge, and how did she make this progress?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the main thing that I teach about is how to deal with stress. How to deal with stress. And
how you deal with stress? Because I have a lot of stress, or what I perceive as stress.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways. The way that
And what is stress?
Yeah. Well,
stress?
Yes, stress is the body or your ability to, well, stress is actually crucial, right? It is something inherent in us that is crucial in order for us to survive, okay? And it is a reflex that is created by our body whenever we feel that we're in danger, so that our body then secretes cortisol and adrenaline so we can get moving and either fight, flight, or freeze, right? So that's a survival mechanism with our body. But these days, stress has lived on because a lot of the time our bodies don't know the difference between real or perceived threat. And a lot of the time we're not in danger anymore. So what's happening is every single thought that you replay about a situation Like maybe that driver honked you or gave you the finger or whatever it is, but you're replaying it and you're making it personal about yourself. Every single time that's replayed, your body is reacting in the same way and secreting those hormones.
Except
that it's not, you're not in danger. And now all of those hormones are giving you that same fight-flight response and causing you to dumb down your IQ. You can't think properly. All you're doing is trying to survive. Your body is actually prepping everything it can to help you survive through that next moment. But when it does that, and over a long period of time, that becomes your new homeostasis, and you're constantly doing that, then what will tend to happen is that all of your other systems in your body will be put on the back burner because cortisol is the preferentiated hormone over any other system. I mean, why would it worry about immune system or digestion or reproduction when you need to survive? You need to like hang to the, you know, how do I survive this next moment?
Wow.
So that's stress, and it is killing us physiologically but also emotionally.
So it's like having a fast car that has turbo on it and it's meant to race, but you have it parked in the garage and you're pressing the turbo consistently while you have the brakes on because you're in a garage, you can't go anywhere. So the hormone, the cortisol hormone, was meant so when we encounter a tiger out in the jungles of Africa to run away. But right now we're being stressed not from a tiger, we're being stressed from maybe a dental assistant, we're being stressed from the lack of money that we've manifested to that point, we're being stressed from these things that are as such. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Just all the worry, all the stories that you play in your head. And our brain thinks involuntary, just like our heart beats involuntary. We can't stop the brain from thinking. That's one thing that we have to realize. But what you get to choose is you get to choose what to think about. And if you practice something so well, of course, it's going to grow a big muscle. And so in our minds these days, the reason why I was so stressed out was my mind was just thinking involuntary about all the things that would forecast my impending doom.
Mm-hmm. So you were scared that your business would go under.
Yeah.
You won't pay your loan, you can't keep your employees on board, your patients won't be happy. So how did you make that shift?
Well, the biggest shift really is in mindset. And when we saw Jennifer Sanders, Dr. Jennifer Sanders, really the big thing, the first module is in filtering, which is mindset. The first thing is to realize that you are not your thoughts. I mean, that's a huge revelation for a lot of people. They don't realize that. I know there's people who die without even ever realizing you are not your thoughts, right? So what I helped with initially, and the women usually get huge results straight away, is because I help them see that they're not their thoughts, and I give them exercises to show that they're not their thoughts. And one of the key things is like, you need to practice small things every day. So I instill habits, which according, like I said, to the KZN method, I don't give big chunks of things like you have to do this, and you know, because the reality is, it's like going to a big, massive Tony Robbins workshop, who I love, by the way, right? But you get instilled in so many things. I'm going to change, these are amazing. And then what happens is that the next month, life gets in the way and everything falls out the wayside. So in these courses, especially with Jen, we install tiny habits that make it almost hard for her not to do every day. And then she actually sees the results here. But mindset's a huge thing. How do we deal with our mind?
Can you give us one or two examples of what's these tiny habits that actually did help Dr. Sanders here?
Okay, so one of the key things I teach about is something I learned that I've changed from Tony Robbins, which is the state switch. And the state switch is a trifecta that helps you deal with any stressful situation. So, for instance, you're in surgery and you've had a complication, and all of a sudden everything clams up and the fight-flight reflex kicks in because that's what it thinks, you're in danger. Right? And then we suddenly can't think, so our brain's muddled up. So the first thing we do in the first trifecta is breathe. So breathe. It's something that is free.
But don't we breathe?
Yeah.
We breathe anyhow. So what does that mean?
But see, here's the thing. When you breathe shallow and up here, or you hold your breath, that is a sign to your brain. That's your body's physiological sign to your brain that you are in a stress state, contracted, right? And so what happens is the body goes, oh, okay, you guys are stressed. I'm going to give you some more cortisol and adrenaline. But if you breathe deep and full into your belly so that obviously you're not breathing in your belly, you're breathing into the lower lobes of the lung. But what happens is you're so expansive in your breath. What that breathing does is it activates the vagus nerve, and that activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which in turn tells and switches off your fight-flight center. The two can't coexist at the same time.
So your stress hormones won't be released, and the cortisol won't take place of those hormones that you do need to maintain balance.
Yeah, you have so much power in just the breath. I mean, that alone, the yogis practice for thousands of years, breath work, right? So it's super powerful. And then the second thing is the reframing. So what you focus on will become your reality. So if you're thinking constantly about all the impending doom that's going to happen because you had this complication, oh no, this patient's going to sue me, I know I'm going to be bust, I'm going to get out of business, all the stuff that you said, how am I going to care for my kids, I know they're going to be thrown out of the home, we're not going to have a home. That dialogue continues, all of those things, right? Guess what that's going to do? It's almost as if your threat is already there and your body's just going, oh yeah, all these things, it's a real threat.
You bring that into existence.
You bring that into existence.
So instead, what do? You focus on, I'm grateful I came to this country as an immigrant, and now I'm in a position where I'm a doctor and I bought a practice.
Okay, they're great things, but sometimes when you're in the midst of that surgery, it's really hard to grasp that.
Kind of hard.
Right? So let's get something more tangible, right? Okay. They're great when you've actually got out of the alarm phase. But right now, if you imagine you're in a complication, which I've been in plenty of times, right, with surgery, because I haven't taken your courses, of course.
We all have complications.
So what happens with that is, I'm thinking to myself, you know, there could be thoughts coming up right now when you're in complications like, I'm no good, who do I think I am? And then you start berating yourself and criticizing yourself. So all you need to do is reframe those thoughts and turn them around and say, hey, you know what, you can do this. Start being your own cheerleader. You can do this. What's your next move? What's your next move? And then pull into your higher self, like find that higher self, which is always in you to help coach you through that situation and feed you the non-destructive words that you need to hear to help you move through that.
You know, you make it sound very easy, but when we're in these situations, it can be hard. So maybe, do you have any suggestions of things to put on the wall? What's some reminders to live an intentional existence?
Yeah, one of my own coaches has helped me in who do I want to be as I step into something. What are the 3 words that I want to be, I want to live up to? So for me, it's things like I want to trust. I want to be strong. I want to be exciting, you know? And I have them on my phone. And every day an alarm goes off, or not an alarm, but a reminder goes off at 10, and it literally shows me those things, and it helps me live more intentionally, right?
In surgery, when I encounter a complication, I think, I'm like, okay, what would Dr. Zeev Simon do? And that helped me, because I'm like, how would he react? Or sometimes, you know.
I freak out.
No, you don't.
I freak out.
I don't believe you.
He doesn't freak out. He doesn't freak out. No, not this guy.
So that helps. Like, or if I have someone I you know, look up to in other ways, I'm like, okay, how would this person react in this situation?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's amazing. I always, sometimes in surgery, I pretend that I'm my mentor's hands, you know, as I'm looking through, and I'm just saying, okay, you got this. And I step into how many times I've seen my mentor do surgery, and then I just like go, there his or her hands, and I step into that.
I mean, I have tons of complications because I do a lot of surgery. What goes through my mind is, nobody's dying today. Nobody's going to die. I may not get the ideal result that I planned for. I may have some setbacks. I may have a patient that will, you know, may have a little bit of more bruising or more pain, but nobody's dying today.
That's reframing.
It's reframing.
You're reframing.
You're reframing it in that. Like, lucky I'm not a cardiac surgeon right now. Yeah. It's a tooth.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
We will only get 2 millimeters of recession.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
We seem to take on so much over our shoulders. It's like we go to dental school, if the patient ends up needing a root canal, we feel it's our fault, rather than they haven't really taken care of their teeth and we're trying to do our best to help out. There's so much false things that we get fed that right off the bat we are starting off losing in this profession. Money is one of them. So we go into dentistry thinking, hey, we go into dentistry, we want a good quality of life, we want to make money because it has, this reputation that if you go into dentistry, you can make money. But in reality, you make money and you gain freedom when you do what? When you follow your passion. This is what you teach, right?
Yeah.
So I feel a lot of the struggles in dentistry come when people are in it. They're in it because they want to make money. And the reality is dentistry is probably not the best way to make money. There's people growing cannabis in Los Angeles right now that make hundreds of millions of dollars. There's people who have all types of other businesses that are not as stressful as dealing with patients day to day, blood and all that. So there's a lot of reframing that what's your thoughts on money and dentistry and even you?
Money, there are so many different professions you can get into. Entrepreneurship can make you a ton more, Real estate can probably make you a ton more. I feel that if you go in, for me, it was seriously about helping people. I wanted to do something medical, and when I stopped worrying about the money, and I actually tapped into what I actually loved, and I was there fully present with my patients, with heart, and honestly giving them my opinion as if I would have their mouth, not trying to recite any scripts in the back or selling scripts. That was when the magic happened. That was when the abundance happened. And the truth is, in dentistry, the money is still amazing, especially for a female, in terms of that we can go and have babies and come back and work part-time and still make an incredible living. And I feel that if you practice your passion, and it could be, you don't even have to be doing everything in dentistry, you can do the things that you love, then you'll bring that joy to your patients, and then you will also create more confidence and trust in yourself to also charge what you're worth as well. That's a huge thing for a lot of people as well, like charging what they're worth.
Dentistry is a beautiful profession. It's a wonderful profession, and it creates a lot of satisfactions. You work with your hands, you work with people, you lead, you really change the world. The only problem that I see in dentistry is that you have no leverage. It's all about you and working with your hands. You can't go on vacation and produce at the same time because you can't do surgeries while you're laying on the beach. But somehow, for you made it work for you in terms of working less and making more, traveling more, expanding your horizons in other fields in your personal growth, and still being able to grow your practice from short of $1 million a year to $2 million. So you over doubled your income. So speaking of money, how did you do that? Let me learn something.
Well, the thing that drove me was actually more clarity around freedom. That was my end goal. On what I actually wanted was freedom. And freedom, yes, means making more money so I can do the things that I love. But ultimately, it wasn't, I feel like if your end goal is to make more money, then maybe you're not in the right profession. Sure. That's the truth. Absolutely. Because then that will affect everything that you do with your team, everything that you do with your patients, and you don't want to start micromanaging everything for that. So that's a big thing. Second thing is I started to do the dentistry that I really loved, which was really full mouth rehab surgery. And then when I became more confident and had more trust in myself to execute and charge what I was worth with my patients, then I was actually also able to hire. You need to hire people to do the work that maybe you don't want to do but they love. And there's plenty out there, like hygienists, general dentists, and you hire and you teach and train them as well. You set them up to succeed. And then as a result of that, that's how I was able to do what I did and still have that freedom and the time. So I went down to working 2 days a week.
Cool.
That's what I did.
So you focus on what you love doing and money will come.
It sounds really easy, doesn't it? Focus on what you love doing and money will come. I feel that the irony is, in this world, when you cling too tightly to something, then you end up like it becomes, there's this scarcity and this fear, and that will drive more scarcity and fear, and you actually will get further away from what you actually want. But when you actually open, you go, you know what, I'm going to focus on my passion, I'm going to bring my heart to this patient, then there's something that happens in the universe where you actually become more abundant because of that.
There seems to be a disconnect for me between that and if you work in any well-run corporate entity, corporate dentistry, it's all that's really matters is how much each branch is producing, and it's run by numbers to a large extent. So a new dentists that are out and they're just thrown in there and they're not that comfortable yet with their dentistry, that becomes their, okay, if I don't produce, I might not keep my job, and then I'm not going to pay my loans. So right off the bat, there isn't that nurturing, space-holding situation that is, I feel, readily available. It does exist. There are great practices out there, but you really need to be intentional in what you're looking for.
Yeah, and not to say you also have to upskill in business. I definitely had to know my KPIs. I needed to know all of those things as well. I needed to set my systems in place. So I needed to have proper protocols and systems so that things could be automated without me being there. I mean, all of that had to happen as well. And I needed to help my practitioners be able to bill through a certain amount. But it was through actually teaching them more about self-worth and self-confidence. That was a huge thing, because the truth is a lot of these practitioners, you know, they've got the skills. If you go through dental school and you go through some extra training, like, you have those skills in you. But the difference between someone who is able to bill a lot more and the person who's not able to, a lot of the time that difference only it lies in the confidence and trust and worthiness. And that's the differentiation. So for me, it was always really important to coach my team on their own self-worth and confidence, and to bring that to the forefront.
And how do you help someone discover their self-worth or realize it?
First of all, help them with some of the mindset issues that are holding them back.
For example?
For example, fear. Fear of failure. So some people are so paralyzed that they're going to fail that they don't even try. They don't even ask the questions. They don't even present the treatment plans because they think that they're going to be rejected by that patient. But for me, I say, well, hang on a second. Why would we make the assumption? Isn't it negligent also to assume that that patient can't afford something? Everyone should be treated equally, and it's in the way that we connect and that we build rapport with that patient, whether it looks like a cheap sales tactic or whether it's just the truth, like selling with heart.
The thing is, we live in a society where people, you feel, for the most part, people are bargaining, people want the cheapest. It's a commoditized society where buy two, get one free, quicker, faster, everything, heart and soul has taken a back seat to all that. So I see what you're saying. I just also see the opposite side as well. If someone doesn't have a mentor, if someone doesn't have someone with an elevated mindset and a mindset of abundance that's looking out for them, then they can go astray.
Absolutely.
Let's break it down, because the most common emotion that dentists have right now is anxiety, fear, and depression. And we all felt those emotions. So if one has fear, what would be a mind hack or a trick to switch and snap out of it, or some type of process that will safely move you into a more confident and more stable mental state?
Yeah. So fear. That's a big one.
And what are we fearing in general? What's the fear from? It's not existential.
The fear's from a part of your brain, which is the reptilian primitive brain called the amygdala. And it is there to keep you safe. And pretty much, it doesn't want you to change too much. Every time you change too much or do something, it sets off this alarm, because it's that reptilian 2 million year old brain, right? So it's guarding you. But without pushing past that, you'll never grow, and you'll never like learn more. And
so how do we do that?
Okay, so fear, for instance, of surgery, for instance. Okay, first of all, you have to really define, is the fear a true fear that's actually going to keep me alive, that I need to fear something so that I can actually stay alive? And if it is, then listen to that fear, okay? Like going out in the dark in a really dingy alleyway is not a good thing to stop listening to.
Don't overcome this fear.
Don't overcome that fear, all right? But there's a fear, there's a lot of time, the fear is the fear that tries to keep us safe. But what I do, okay, and we all have this fear inherent, but say for instance, I'm about to go on stage and I always get the jitters, right, with that fear. Or I'm about to do surgery with a case that I've never done before, and I get a bit of jitters. So what I do is, when you are scared, your body is giving you what type of symptoms?
Cortisol.
Yeah, but what are you feeling?
Heart rate, sweaty palms, butterflies, shortness of breath. For me, you know, I flush, meaning become red.
Okay.
All of that. All of that.
All right, so all of those things.
I need to go to the restroom, things like that.
Okay, and you need to evacuate, right? Because it's just fear. So what you can do is actually, the same emotional pathway of excitement lives in the brain as fear does. Mm-hmm. And if you can turn that fear into excitement, you've won. And fear is excitement without the breath. So first of all, what do you need to do then, if you want to turn it into that?
Breathe.
Breathe first, and then you can start telling your body, what do you think you can start telling your body instead? So reframe. I'm about to walk on stage, because there's this surge of adrenaline and cortisol. It's energy, right? I need to do something with it. Mm-hmm. In excitement, you have, what are the same physiological?
Same. It's all the same.
It's all the same. So here's the hack. Tell yourself that you're excited. When you're scared, I tell myself I'm excited. I'm about to jump on that stage. I'm like, I'm excited, I'm excited, I'm excited. Then I start jumping up and down, changing my body, my physiology, like actually like getting into, you know, I'm celebrating, right? I'm excited. Right? And I'm telling my brain and my amygdala that I'm excited. The body's reacting exactly the same way. That's just the hack. You can't tell your body that you're calm though, because it's like, no, that's BS. You're not calm. Right. Those physiological things are not calm.
So you verbally or repeat it mentally in your head, I'm excited.
I'm excited. So that's something like that I would use for like going on stage. I would do a little bit of that, say I'm going into surgery. I'm like, I'm excited, I'm really excited about this surgery. And then now I close my eyes and I visualize the outcome of what I'm going to do. And I just see it so clearly. This is an amazing thing. It's intention, it's a visualization, it's almost like a meditation. But I set the scene. If I'm going on stage, I see the best of me coming forth, my presentation, I'm gunning it. If I'm in surgery, I'm seeing like my mentor's hands, like doing the surgery, it's perfect, the patient's happy, everyone's cheering me on. I get that so visual in my brain that it kills off any other, it doesn't leave any room for any of the other crap that, you know, likes to seep in.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Thank you for that.
In surgery, I just want to say in surgery, visualizing the surgery is crucial, Ziv, and you've guided me on doing that. So visualizing it and planning it ahead of time so that you know what you're getting into is a key to actually taming that dragon. So the next point is no one sets out or plans on losing trust in themselves. How and why do we lose trust and confidence in ourselves?
There's so many ways. I would say initially you listen to the thoughts in your head that criticize you, that put you down, and you also create stories of other people's judgments that you perceive to be judging you. So you get really scared about someone says something and then you turn it into a big story in your head. You know, and that person's maybe not even thinking about you anymore, but you are still turning and thinking about that.
We are part of our environments, and we're human. We react. If it's hot, we take off our shirt. If someone is attacking us, direct or indirectly, it is gonna leave a scar. So some are better at letting those scars go and building their confidence, while others hold on to them and make them big monsters. Yeah. So
for me, if I have, like, I'm angry, like someone has said something to me, who, you know, sometimes you might get a patient who's just irate and blasts you. right? And you hold it. I mean, first of all, let's say for argument's sake, we're in an argument with our spouse, because that's always a good one to get ourselves up and irate, right?
Spousal argument.
Husband, wife,
Spouse.
arguing.
Or partner in your case.
Partner, whatever, yeah. Person who stays with you at home.
Significant other.
Your significant other, right? That's always a good one. Like, we can talk about patience. We're really good at saving face as you know, dental practitioners. We're really good at holding it together, but we don't hold it together so well with our spouse. So say, for instance, something's ignited and triggered you, right? I give myself 5 minutes to just walk away and release that, because I know there's pent-up emotion in my body, right? So whether it be anger or sadness, and what I do is actually move my body. Here's the thing, a lot of the time we try and hold it all together, and over time what happens, it's like a kettle boiling, yeah? Until one day, then all of a sudden, you know, you've had that, right? You're holding things, and then someone says something to you that's really small, nothing much, and then suddenly, boom, explode. And that's usually your partner when you get home, right? And they don't even know where it came from.
It does happen. It does happen. So there's a lot of hacks and a lot of, listening to you and others, ways to be better. Yet, again, in our dental profession, with all the different challenges dealing with patients and our colleagues and the actual stressful day-to-day of a running of a practice, how do we recognize that we have poor confidence and poor self-esteem? How do we even get this to the awareness? Because a lot of us see ourselves as doctors. We are well educated. We earn a very decent living. And why wouldn't we be confident? So actually, deep inside, what happens in there? What's the inner game? It's a tough question.
It's a tough question, yeah. For me, look, a lot of the time I get my clients to just do a brain dump sometimes, and just like scribble out all of the things that are going on in their brain right now. And then you can start to recognize patterns or same thoughts that are coming up, which signify those type of things. That's a nice hack.
I have a suggestion, and you guys tell me. If we are making our day-to-day decisions, whether it's to take insurance or to lower our price or to bend backwards out of fear, if that's our driving force, we're fearing, and hence we're acting, rather than we're acting not out of fear, which is, I guess, out of strength and love and faith, then that would be a sign that there is some confidence and self-esteem issues. What do you guys think of that?
I personally think that everybody is not as confident as they think they are. Even the most confident person in the world. Because if they would be as confident, they would have the confidence to admit that they're not as confident in all aspects of life. And maybe you're very confident in surgery, but maybe you're not very confident about your social skills, for example. So I think the key here is to see ourselves as what we are, as imperfect creatures. You don't have to have this boasty personality and tons of confidence and chest out and all of that. You don't have to do that. Confidence is quiet. Confidence comes from within. Actually, the people that are the most confident are the ones that don't get into arguments, that don't show you their muscles, and they don't show their beautiful cases on Facebook, because they're confident enough. They don't need it. These are the people that when you insult them, they just smile at you, because they don't care. They're confident enough. So I think we're a little bit trapped in the confidence story. If you want to have confidence in surgery, you got to be prepared, and that there's a set list of rules that you need to know about. You need to know what can go right and what can go wrong. If I know that, I'm confident in surgery. I may go home and I'll be like a little puppy with my wife. Not very confident, maybe. But you don't have to be that confident. And when you're confident, then you don't have to show it.
I love that. Thanks.
I also feel like confidence is really not you coming in like what you said, all guns blazing all the time and going, oh yeah, I'm confident. Confidence for me is the ability to figure out whatever I need to figure out. So just to know in myself that whatever I'm going to step into, not that I'm going to have to know everything, but it's just I'm going to have the ability to figure it out. And that's it.
Cool.
That's awesome.
We can be confident to talk about the next subject.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
It's all figure-outable. So why, in your opinion, are so many dentists and healthcare professionals unhappy?
So many reasons.
We have, we have a slide that we can,
Yeah, let's show the slide. That's a good
let's
slide.
try the slide. So maybe we can
You had a great
tackle it
slide.
one by one,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Complications. Complications with
They should not make you unhappy. They should make you annoyed, and they're challenging, and they make you better. It's not, happiness is a complex subject, but bad stuff happens all the time. It happens in surgery, in dentistry, in medicine, in your personal life, in your health. Any aspect as a complicated issue. If you let that make you unhappy, then you'll be unhappy all the time. So,
so that's not a. You got to reframe
Yeah.
with respect to
yeah,
complications.
when I deal with too many complications, all it tells me is there's something I don't know. There's something I don't know. Something I'm doing wrong. I didn't follow my mentor's advice. I'm not learning from my mistakes, and there's simply something that I'm missing out. That's a complication that repeats itself.
So complications are an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, but most dentists are unhappy with complications because they fear failure. They fear that they're going to be seen as a failure, and that's the fear of complications. So it's a matter of reframing.
Reframing it. And a lot of times some of our colleagues have judgments, and if we're still fresh and we're being judged by someone who's somewhat older, right off the bat you start feeling less than, and you start cocooning. Okay, the next thing is just other dentists. Sometimes it's important to I feel be very selective about who you deal with, and make sure you align, and I wish I knew that initially when I went out. Align with those who are in philosophical match to you in dentistry. We can go to the screen. Government, papers, licenses. There's places around the world where I've worked in a place around the world where I was in fear that a government entity would walk in. I worked in Saudi Arabia for some time, and it's a monopolized healthcare system by certain people, and it's so stressful. What was stressful wasn't actually the dentistry. What was stressful is dealing with papers and licenses and all types of so there's struggles around the world that going into dental school we never thought that we were going to face these struggles. We got bills.
Big bills.
We got the actual dentistry, family, employees, insurance, collecting for our services. I mean, it's become ridiculous to the point to where you do the service and you feel like you have to have a law firm of people submitting claims and fighting for what you're owed. So all that is not an environment of abundance in dentistry. That's an environment of lack. That's an environment, and those who do a fee-for-service practice obviously feel the great difference of having to deal with insurances versus saying, you know what, I charge X, someone pays you and you do it. Then patience can be a source of stress, but ourselves, because we all have these things in common. So starting with ourselves, and that's what you teach. We start with our mindset, right?
Yeah, I mean, it all stems from ourselves and how we perceive all of those other things.
How we perceive these
And that's our choice. We get to choose how we perceive all of those other stresses. We get to perceive whether they are actually even stresses or whether they're just things that we need to overcome so we can grow.
All of these things, you don't have to do. You have a choice without exception. First of all, you don't have to be a dentist. You can do something else very easily. But if you don't want to have a family, you don't have a family. It's kind of hard to go back. Once you have the kids, you can't send them back. But and same with the wife, and hopefully you don't want to when you get there. You don't want to be a practice owner. You don't have to be a practice owner. Sometimes as a practice owner, you actually make less and you have more headaches. And in the big picture, you're not as happy. You don't want to have employees. All of these things are your choice. So if you're sitting on your desk and you're paying those stack of bills and you're writing the charts and you stress, you have to think, I don't have to do that. I already achieved enough. I don't have to sit in a studio and interview people and try and change the world. I don't have to do that. But it's a choice that you make. And that really changes everything for me because I chose to do all these things.
Yeah.
But then again, fear kicks in. You went to dental school. You got to pay the bills. You got to versus, and that's something that, working with people of Zeev's caliber and Zeev showed that you don't have to treat every case. You don't have, so that's
so there's a smart way. There's a smart way to do all of these things. To be honest, I did not figure out 100% how to overcome all these challenges. I faced challenges in all of these subjects, without exception, including ourselves or myself. So there's no 100% solution yet. It's the mindset, the inner game, the attitude, the disposition that I have when I deal with patients, when I deal with my bills, with taxes. I hate them. I despise them. But I chose to be a practice owner, and I chose to have a big family and have a big operation. So that's my choice. And now there's a reward. There's the reward as well.
And the choice is also to come into any of these things with a different mindset. So you could do your taxes that you have to do, and you can come into it with the taxes, I hate the taxes, and you can bring that energy into doing them, and the outcome will just be horrendous the whole way through for you. Or you can just go into it with a more playful attitude of like, there's these taxes. And then you move into it and play with it, and then bring that different energy in, and then the outcome will actually be different.
So for taxes, you can play with it. Oh, this is the cost of freedom.
You know the song, The Taxman?
The more tax, the more I'm making.
The more tax, the more I'm making.
No, it's like, thank God. That's what I'm thinking. Thank God we have taxes.
Yeah,
and I know this is like, people would hate me for saying this. Thank God we have taxes. There are some countries where there are no taxes. But then when somebody shoots you, in the middle of the street, where's the police? There's no foundation. Third world countries, maybe the tax bracket is not that high, but you can really benefit from it. And if you do taxes the smart way, there's a lot of ways where you can overcome, in a legal way, offset a lot of the tax burden. So there's ways to look at tax, and I still hate them.
Yeah.
And I'm still stressed. We're two weeks away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things to do.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
So why do so many healthcare professionals feel like they are in a daily grind and not fulfilled? And Dr. Fern, you're the creator of Practice Your Passion, which is an excellent program that trains dentists on getting out of that daily grind and finding their passion and living with vibrancy. So why do you think that's the current status quo?
A lot of the time it's because we're trying to live to someone else's dream that's not even ours. And and one of the things seeing a lot of my clients is that they're not living the life that they dreamt of. They're living it for someone else, and usually it's your parents or someone else's expectations, or your colleagues, or even your husband's or your wife's expectations, or the expectation that you have of yourself. To live up to a certain standard. And so therefore then they're on this treadmill and they're just trying to get through, and they're stressed out. You know, so yeah, I feel like a lot of them, if they're just trying to get through and they're not enjoying what they're doing, then it will always feel like a grind. You know, if you don't love what you're doing, and if you're doing things that you don't love, then maybe it's time to delegate some of the things that you don't love, so that you can do more of the things that you love.
Beautiful. Awesome. Excellent. Stress and anxiety back to haunt us. So stress and anxiety.
Stress and anxiety.
Normal human emotions. Normal human emotions.
Anxiety? You want another hack?
I want a lot of hacks. I want all the hacks.
Give us some.
Give
hacks.
us another one.
You want me, okay, so one of the things.
I want everything.
And
I have something to say about stress in a minute.
Okay,
after the hack, I want to hear the hack.
I'll give you a hack around anxiety, because I feel that anxiety for me is future pacing. It comes when we start to worry about the things that are going to happen when they haven't happened. And that creates anxiety in us. Whereas something like depression is really moving into the past and, you know, going over the past over and over again and feeling depressed because of the past, right? So anxiety, I'm going to just show you a really different way of looking at anxiety. Anxiety is future pacing. So if you want to, like, obviously it's so hard when you're anxious to say, hey, stop it, because that's really hard. It sounds really great in theory, but it's really hard. So if you think about anxiety and how it actually affects the body, and what I do is also teach about the body, because your body actually has so much more wisdom than what you give it credit for, okay? Just look at how a woman is able to grow and birth and nurture a child, and none of it's done by her, it's done by her body.
Oh.
Right? Like, incredible power there. That's another topic. Okay, but anxiety, if you think about how anxiety works, when you're anxious, tell me, what are you feeling?
Just uneasy, like...
What's your physiological presentation? Like, someone's like, think about a patient who's anxious. What do they present you with?
Their breathing is short.
Yeah.
They're not focused. They move a lot.
Agitated. Yep. Do you think they're forecasting about what's going to happen in the dental chair, and that's why they're anxious?
Definitely.
Yep. So what's happening in the body is that the energy, and we are all energy, you know. If you think about energy, right, we are all made up. If you think about right now, hey, I want to think about my hands, and you think about your hands, and you can actually feel the energy in your hands, right, this warmth that comes over your hands when you think about your hands. That's energy moving. And when a patient or someone is anxious, the energy is literally rising up into their head, right? They're thinking, they're panicking, their breathing is short, everything is coming up here. Sure. So a really quick way to get the anxious state down is what we've talked about before. It's just breathing. Deep, full, and moving that anxious energy down. And this is what I do with my patients all the time. I get them to actually put their hands on their stomach and breathe into their stomach 10 times and feel that energy go down and go down and go down and go down.
So you tell them to put their hand on their stomach?
Yeah. And then I get them to move their feet, because I want them to direct the energy down. Right? It's an easy hack, but such a profound hack, especially with anxious patients. Like, literally 90% of my patients who have crazy anxiety, that if I breathe with them and I pull it down and I get them to just focus going down, they're literally pulling that energy from their head, which is anxiety energy, down into their bodies. And you actually get them to move their feet. You know, you say wiggle your toes when you're giving LA, all right? Indirectly, what that's doing is bringing that energy down, so they're not in their heads thinking so hard.
You find it valuable to break their pattern interrupting them? You
can, but when someone's in an anxious state, it's really hard to talk. They're not in the frame of mind where they can accept logic.
It's like a child in a tantrum.
Yeah, they're dissociated, they're in their head. You have to, like, get them back into their bodies. And a lot of the time they're not in their bodies. So what you can do is also get them to tap their, like, if someone's dissociated, I get them back into their body, and I get them to, I'm a female, it's easy for me to do this, but I touch their legs and I actually say, can you feel your legs? And as soon as I direct that attention down, like, you just see this massive shift in the patient, right? It's an easy hack. Because, you know, in these cases, reframing and all of those things probably won't work, because you can't talk logic in that state.
They're wrapped up in their anxiety. But back to the anxiety and stress that we experience as clinicians and surgeons and doctors. What I found out, discovering for myself and also through a lot of soul searching and studying, we are addicted to these emotions.
Oh, yeah.
You're totally addicted. So if you have the first experience with adrenaline, it's like a roller coaster. Actually, you kind of feel good. I mean, I feel myself sometimes at the end of the day just sitting back and absorbing all this stress and anxiety in form of an energy. And your body gets addicted to it. Now, what happens, and that people call it being a workaholic or workaholism, what happens is that when you don't get it, you have a downtime, you have like a morning off, or you have a morning with your kids. Like, where's this excitement? Where's the adrenaline? I need it. My body is addicted to it at the cellular level, not at the mental level, which is basically the same, but it's you're addicted to these emotions. So what happens, these emotions turn into the body, and then it's a self-feeding mechanism. So now you seek it more. So I'm going to maybe book another patient for today at 5 p.m. because I'm going to get another patient, another surgery in because I want to build my practice. And that it's an endless cycle that needs to be broken.
Never thought of it that way.
But I literally, when I can come home, and Fern talks about it quite a bit in her teaching, what Fern is teaching, and correct me if I'm wrong, is before you get home, sneak in, get a shower, and come back to your family like a different person, or maybe it's a variation of what you're teaching. But I totally understand that, because when I come home, before I come home, I sit and I absorb all this stress, anxiety, energy as a positive. It's like, I don't do any drugs, obviously, but it feels like a drug. Yeah. It feels like this exhilarated feeling of, wow, this was a great day. This was a very exciting day. And it could have been a roller coaster up and down.
Wow.
So you're addicted to that.
Yeah.
I was, just a short story, I was walking in the park close in this area some time ago, and it was nighttime. And I was out for just a nighttime walk, and I see a group of men, and there's no one there at the park, but there was a group of men in the center. And as I got closer, I heard them scream. One of them is like screaming, and they're all surrounding him. Now, I could have either ran away or ran away, but I got very. But I was very curious. I mean, we're here in Beverly Hills. I mean, it's a group of men. It's probably some type of activity. So I approached, and then someone came out of the group to talk to me, and he's like, we're a group of men, and we support each other. Men are under a lot of stress. They're expected to do so much and not cry and support a family and then become rich and so much. He's like, there's so much on us, so we're a support group for men. And look at this guy screaming. And I looked, and there's this guy who's like raging, screaming.
It was me.
Or me.
After his adrenaline hit.
So he's like, if this guy goes home to his wife with this energy, what do you think is going to happen? So stress and anxiety.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we get out of the daily grind? Next question.
Next question.
We've kind of covered that in a few.
What you've done, you've taken your practice from 900 to 2 million. And you've cut down to 2 days a week, right? A lot of us feel like we're in a daily grind. We got to work to pay the bills. We can't travel. If we can't go on a 3-week vacation because some patients, we might lose some patients. But you go on for what? What's the longest vacation you've taken recently?
Well, I haven't actually been back at my practice for I've been there coaching, but maybe 12 months now.
So your practice is on autopilot?
My practice is on autopilot, and yes, it's probably not billing as much as I was there because I was a great provider. But having said that, I haven't been holidaying. I've been working on my other projects.
You've purchased the freedom and the mind space to create things that maybe bring you more if you're looking at production.
Yeah, but just for me, it's more impact. You know, that's my calling. Because I got to a stage in my career where I've got everything that I need that success is defined by, but I've got a calling in this world that is more than me. And that's why I created PYP.
And for those watching, PYP is a practice your passion.
Yeah.
It's a, what is it, a 5-week course?
So now it's a lifetime course, really.
Lifetime course.
It's a lifetime course, yeah.
That you've set up to help, it's mostly catered to female dentists and healthcare providers, physicians.
Yeah, and as well as the courses around there and the masterminds around there.
So I'm curious, 12 months you've been away from your practice, you just go back for some coaching and it's still running and it's running well. Your reputation is not down the drain. You don't have bad Yelp reviews or whatever. I don't know what you guys have in Australia.
Yeah.
But how did you achieve that?
You know what? First of all, I got really clear about what I wanted to do.
Get clear.
So get really clear about what is it that I want to do. And if you want to work 3 days, then get really clear about, I want to work 3 days and make it a reality. A lot of us, we have these dreams, but we don't dream big enough and we don't say anything to anyone and we don't put it into writing and we don't proclaim it to the universe for fear that we're not going to get there and we're going to be seen as failures. But I say, here's the thing, if you don't dream big, if you don't get really clear, how does God or the universe help you with this dream? If you're not clear, how can they be clear about it either to help you?
So what was your clarity? Can you just verbalize so people listening can get a sense of what a clear vision is?
My clarity when I was working 6 days a week, I didn't think 2 days. I was just taking small steps. I was thinking, would it be nice to do 4 days? And then wouldn't it be nice to do 3? If I could do in 3 what I did in 4, that would be amazing. And then I thought, you know what, how about 2 now? How about trying to do what I did in 3 days into 2? And so I was kind to myself. I wasn't trying to set myself massive goals that I would never reach in short amounts of time. I was taking momentum and step. But what I always did was I was clear about my end goal and I would redefine it as I moved through wherever it needed. But then I always had momentum. That's the other thing too. You know, I always took steps forward rather than backwards. And if there were things like was setback, I was just thinking, okay, how can I use that as a learning tool to keep propelling myself forwards? If there was a team member, and you know, I've had my fair share of team members coming and going. And I believe that now, people will come in the practice for their stay that they're there, will help them succeed, but if they outgrow, that's okay. But I didn't see that anymore as like a setback. A lot of the times we have these big things that we think are huge setbacks. I can't do it anymore, this has failed, I don't have the right team. But I feel like a lot of the time they're just excuses for us not to propel forwards because we're really ultimately scared. And sometimes it's almost as if we're scared that we're not worthy of that dream. You know, we're scared that we're not worthy to charge that much or whatever it is deep inside. So that's why I say work on yourself, like get your mindset right, be around people who inspire you, be around a community who you can trust, who you can be vulnerable with, but who are also aiming higher than you are. So that I go, okay, well, hang on, Dr. Rashad's doing 2 days, maybe I can do that too. But if you're around people who are slogging it out 6 days a week and that's their norm, guess what your life will be like? And you going down to 5 days will be like, oh my God, I'm amazing, right? So for me, it was actually being around inspiring people, paying for masterminds around the world. Like I travel to the US so much, but I'm like, I deserve the best. And when I'm around the best, my potential is just increased so much more. So that is it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So you identify what your vision is for yourself.
Get clear.
I want to have freedom.
And then find, if you want to scale, or if you want to stop, you know, time for money type of thing, hire other people as well and train them and set them up to succeed and coach them. So I'm still back and forth coaching my managers, my practitioners, you know, and my team. And I come in for my team meetings and all I do, I give them motivational talks, right?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah. So,
that's the same thing?
Same thing. In your opinion, what is freedom as a dentist or a healthcare professional? What's freedom for you? Some people will tell you, you know, I went to school for 10 years I need to work every day. How do you define freedom? What's freedom for you?
Freedom for me is to feel alive, you know, to feel my day, to feel joy in what I'm doing. And it doesn't have to be joy all the time. You know, I'm not happy, happy, joy, joy all the time. But freedom is just to really choose, the ability to choose to do what I love. And for me, it's to have an impact, whether it be on my patients only, whether it be on my team, like to know that I've actually changed lives and I've done the best that I can possibly be, you know.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. What mindset changes did you experience as you transitioned from a daily grind to freedom?
Okay, so there's this book that I absolutely loved, and in those moments where I was down, I was given a book because I asked, you know, and my brother gave me this book, and it was one of my favourite books. It's called The 4 Agreements. Have you read that book?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, so The 4 Agreements became my Bible. It's just pretty much by an author called Don Miguel Ruiz, who is, I think he's from Argentina. And he's got 4 things to live by.
Can you share them?
Yeah, sure. Let's hope I remember them. Okay.
Number 1.
Number 1. Okay, the 4 things to live by is be impeccable to your word. Okay, because words have this ability to either make or break you. And that's your words to yourself as well, more importantly. Okay? The second one is don't make any assumptions. So are you assuming that a patient has cancelled because they don't like you? And then you're creating a big mountain out of a molehill? Yeah? Are you assuming that that team member's going to leave? Whatever it is that you create. So don't make any assumptions.
Don't make assumptions.
Yeah. The third one is don't take anything personally. Because if you don't take anything personally, nothing can affect you. It's hard, but it's gold. If you don't take anything personally, how free would your life be? Because a lot of the time we always think everything's about us, but it's not. Yeah? And then the fourth one is always try to do your best. So everything that you come and do, just do your best, and that's the best that you can do, and at least you've given it your best, as opposed to giving it your half and then regretting it if things don't work out.
Beautiful.
And moving through life with that.
Wow.
So The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Is that a type of book that you would gift?
Oh, I've gifted it so many times because it was gold. It actually was one of the books that changed my life.
Beautiful, beautiful. We like to gift in Surgical Master. We like to gift The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. That's our Bible. I know, 2 Bibles can coexist, but that's really about the Stoic philosophy, and the struggle or the obstacle is the way. That's really part of the norm. And these are principles and concepts that were developed thousands of years ago, a couple thousands when the Stoics were around.
Okay.
So
I'll have to get that book.
Obstacle is the Way. We'll send it to you. We've bought hundreds of these books and give it to all of our mentees in our training.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Books, Ziv, you always say someone put their whole life's wisdom
into a book.
In something that costs $10 or even $20 or even $50.
It's amazing.
Read.
We're so lucky.
So you can succeed.
Yeah. So the next thing is the dental dream an illusion?
Dental dream.
What is a dental dream?
Well, in America, the American dream is you come from, a third world country, poor, no opportunity where you're at, but you come here, you study, you work, you make money, you live with dignity, you buy a house, you, marry someone you want to marry, and you live happily ever after. The dental dream is you go to dental school and you go out and you own a Mercedes and you live in a big house and you're respected in your community and you make lots of money. Is this an illusion or is it achievable? And we kind of touched base on some of those things, but you know, after going through what we've talked about till now, what's your thoughts?
It depends if it's your dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not your dream, then it's an illusion. But I have to say, align your dream, what you really want, and have dentistry help you along the way.
Okay. I would say the dental dream is not an illusion, but what happens is, it's like if your kids are watching hip-hop songs, they learn to call every woman a bad word, and they learn how to look down. And if the current hip-hop culture and rap, with the exception of a rapper called Tom McDonald, if anyone's listening, and the current hip-hop culture is like whatever they're singing is brainwashing people at a vulnerable state to believe that happiness lies in big houses and cars and using women. In dentistry, a similar thing happens. You know, there's in schools they should talk about insurances. In schools, they should really be very clear on a lot of your teachings should be taught in school before teaching how to prep. You can teach a monkey, not a monkey, maybe you can teach a monkey, I don't know.
A skilled monkey.
But you can teach maybe a skilled monkey, I don't know.
You can teach AI.
You can teach AI, and AI is coming on the market strongly. So it's not an illusion. I think it starts with ourselves, with gaining clarity on who we are, what our purpose is, on not doing something that pleases others rather than finding our own drives. That's my thought on that.
It's all an illusion. Everything is an illusion.
Yeah, I want to go deep into this.
Everything, because you're going to go into that when you're in your 20s. What do you know in your 20s compared to your 30s and your 40s and now almost 50? It's back then it was an illusion, and now it's all an illusion. So you know, you come with the best intentions, and you can have all the preparation. It's like, you know, going to a fight. You did martial arts, right? You go into a fight, you got your strategy, you got your conditioning, you got your technique, you got all your moves. All this goes down the drain once you get punched in the face. Then it's all instinct, and then it's, you know, you dig in deeper. Same thing happens here. You can have your dream, and you know, we're fairly successful people, but maybe looking back, it's not what we wanted. So, you know, I just look at it, you know, from a practical point of view. You know, I look at every day as an opportunity. Sometimes I succeed, sometimes I fail, sometimes I fail miserably. And is it a dream, not a dream? I don't know. Let's move on.
Awesome. So you gotta pick your illusion.
I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I don't know.
We're moving into the matrix right now.
So the roadmap to going from sad and struggling to happy dentist doctor, and we went over and discussed that. We can go with the first thing you must do, and can you just take us through these couple points?
Yeah, find community. Find community. As humans, we're hardwired for connection. It is actually what helps us like propagate the human species. And dentistry is very isolating. We're so isolated. And these days, especially with social media, we're even more isolated than ever. So find the community that you can. Go and see other people. Be with mentors who inspire you, because what happens is when you have that face-to-face communication, you create oxytocin in your body. You know, and that's what drives people. That's what drives, you know, it's a love hormone, and it makes you feel good, and it makes you remember why you're doing what you're doing, right? To get out of that daily grind. So find your community, find mentors, and just keep touching base. So don't be alone. And then also, we talk about get out of your mind, but like a lot of the time we are really subscribing to our left brain, doing brain all the time, and dentistry and work, it's also, you know, that left brain is also known as the masculine brain, the focused, linear, directed, goal-orientated. But as human beings, we also have a right brain, which is the yin, which is the more feminine brain, and that's more in charge of intuition, creativity, play, flow. And as human beings, we need the two of them to coexist, to be balanced, to feel that joy in life again, which is what it means to be human. Yeah. So let's get the left brain like rested sometimes and allow the right brain to come in to play. So that means like make time for play, make time to be with your friends, make time to meditate. And if meditation in the lotus style, sitting with like incense is not your thing, it doesn't have to be, you can just sit quietly. You know, go and play, do golf, go out, move your body, you know, take a walk into nature. That's the thing that's going to move you back into that brain. And once you fuel that brain, you come back even more invigorated, inspired, and much more focused and productive than ever, because your brain, your right, your left, your masculine, your feminine, yin, yang, whatever you want to call it, is in balance. And that's what it means to be human.
Find the joy. And then the second thing you need to do is
go back. I can do that. Right? Yeah. You know, we're trying to find the formula. There's no formula, but you know, a lot of us, including myself, you know, always like to grasp onto something, because as you can tell, Dr. Fern has a wealth of knowledge and experience in teaching and motivating and inspiring female dentists and physicians, but also male dentists to do more. So we want to have this. You know, there's something to grasp on. So what Dr. Fern taught us before was that you can't be anxious and frustrated at the same time as feeling gratitude, right? These are two almost like opposing emotions or states of mind. So if you can replace the anxiety and fear with a sense of gratitude, for example, I'm sitting here in a studio and I have obviously a lot of stress and other things are happening. If I'm sitting here and running this program together with you good people, how bad can life be?
Yeah.
You know, how bad is it? Or I'm you know, 5 o'clock in the morning in the gym and I'm thinking about certain challenges. I'm in the gym working out. How bad is it? How bad is it?
Yeah.
So that's gratitude.
Yeah. And yesterday I lost my voice and it was so easy for me to like go into this story of like, I came all the way here to shoot, and at the time that I needed my voice the most, I lost it. How ironic that I just did Roger Love's voice training, right, to lose it. But then all I could think about was, okay, let's stop that train of thought and let's infuse it with, thank goodness I'm in a place where there's a lot of holistic practitioners. I'm like next to some of the best functional doctors ever. I'm having an IV drip. All of those things, and it's just gratitude, and I really believe that's why I got my voice back.
And you did, and your voice sounds great.
Thanks.
And then the second thing is don't compare yourself. So a lot of times you look at Facebook, like, you know. Like
Facebook leads to depression. That was already proven.
It leads to depression.
So talk about Facebook, because that was now proven. You know, what you're getting is a snapshot. For example, let's say I don't know Fern, and I just know her as a dentist, and I see her on the beach, and I see her at you know, some beautiful place in Australia, all around the world. I'm like, wow, I'm sitting here and I'm just extracting teeth, and she's all over the world. You know, I'm comparing myself
to someone's perfected reel of themselves,
and it's just a snapshot.
So don't compare yourself. Don't compare yourself.
Yeah, and all the beautiful images that you get of teeth. You know, everyone's beautiful teeth images.
Yeah, yeah. Publish your pictures, even if, you know, it's your work. You worked with honesty on it. It's your work. If someone attacks you with it, then let me know.
Yeah, but, but also don't compare yourself with other people, but compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah.
So that you're always like growing a little bit, and also celebrating how much growth you've done.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah, we forget that.
Well, I'm grateful to be with you guys.
Thanks.
Thanks. Third, you need to do the following two things, and identify a goal and create a plan. And is there a strategic way to do that? Like, your goal was not to make 2 million. Your goal was to get freedom. So identify that goal. A lot of times, you know, you ask people, what's your goal? I want to be a millionaire. Well, that's a little...
Why do you want to be?
Why do you want to... So how do you identify a
The
goal?
question is why. It's usually everything tangible leads to really an emotion that they want to feel. So the question should be, what's your goal? How do you want to feel? And for me, it was, I want to feel free.
Mm-hmm.
And so what needs to happen for you to feel free is the next question. And then you get, you start thinking about it and you go, okay, well, this has to happen, and this has to happen with my relationship, and this has to happen with my clinic, and I need to delegate my stuff. And suddenly you reach that endpoint, which is the feeling of how you want to feel. Because even if buying a yacht or buying a jet or whatever it is, like, they're all ways to make you feel a certain way. That's it.
Thank you. I definitely benefited immensely from surrounding myself with top minds and that are inspirational. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was great doing this talk with you guys.
Yeah, likewise.
What's your plans for the future, Dr. Fern?
For me, I want to set big dreams. I want to affect literally thousands and tens of thousands, even millions of, for me, females is really close to my heart. And I really want to create this movement where we see more females on stages speaking as experts. And the reason why I believe that is the feminine qualities, and there's feminine in men as well, but that needs to come forth so that we can change this very patriarchal society of Western medicine. And that's the truth, and it's when the femme rises up, all those innate feelings of intuition, nurturing, care, when the female is able to stand up, that will change the face of healing for all of our patients as well. And imagine what that will do to our world.
That will impact our world.
Yeah.
And Dr. Simon?
Beautiful. Yes?
I love what your mission is as far as to, impact 1 million dentists. Something around is that a...
Yeah, if I can impact 100,000 dentists, I'll be very happy. And, we just do it one dentist at a time.
Mm-hmm.
One dentist at a time until we reach where we, where we can. And happiness is the key.
Awesome.
Okay. So thank you very much for joining us for this talk and interview and discussion about things that we feel are important. Check out Dr. Fern White. Check out Practice Your Passion training by Dr. Fern. Check out everything that you can get from her online. Is extremely valuable. We certainly learned a lot and keep learning. So we look forward to seeing you in our future interviews and in our training.
And click the link below to actually get see what Dr. Fern's program is all about, what it covers, and if it's something that suits you, then do it. Thank you so much.